Should be live here in any second. Just making sure everything's good and working. Blah, blah, blah.
Are you all ready for an epic Warhammer battle? Because we have no idea how this one's going to turn out, but we are super, super excited.
Yeah, we are all good to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode ever back from very different old whatever. Who Would Win is back. But it's not at all like it used to be. It's actually got a format, which the old one didn't really have a format. And it is going to be so much better than the original version. So I am very, very excited for this. We hope y'all are excited for it. There is going to be a couple of, actually a few moments of some pretty substantial audience participation. So hopefully if you're somewhere else in the world, you are able to stay awake. And if you're in America, you are settling in after getting off of work or whatever it was you were doing today. So without further ado, Andy, I don't know if you kind of want to give them the heads up on what all we're going to be doing.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea because we are going to have ourselves an epic battle. And we are starting with one of the biggest battles we could conceive. We had a bit of a discussion right at the very beginning about exactly who we would pitch against whom. And as all of you already know, we have picked two of the most ridiculously overpowered characters that we can lay our hands on, and also two characters who haven't already faced each other, which I think is a super fun thing for us to do. So we, of course, have over on Sotek's side. Do tell us who you're playing.
I'm not going to read off all the titles because it's going to be a long enough stream as it is, but we've got the King of Kings himself, the first true king of the first true human empire. Everything very specifically outlined and italicized there. The mighty Settra, the Imperishable himself. And obviously he's imperishable, so he can't lose. It's literally in the name.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has never lost in his time, has he?
Never.
Oh, died again, resurrected. On my side, we're going to be playing with good old Malekith. Now, you might not know Malekith and exactly whom this Malekith character is if you are a player of the Old World. Malekith, for you Old World players, is Malarian, but we're going to be using the Warhammer 8 version. That's the 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle to depict how we're going to be playing this one out. So in our case, we are talking about Malekith. But if you wish, and if it appeals to you at your end, just go Malarian every single time I say Malekith. Malekith, Malarian. So I am playing Malekith, the Witch King, the king of the Dark Elves over in Nagaroth, and it's fair to say the eventual winner of today.
The biggest Nepo baby in the world. Yeah.
He may be a Nepo baby, but he kicks ass. This is going to be good.
So a couple of quick things before we get into it. Me and Andy are just going to be having a lot of fun with this. And we're going to be just talking a lot of shit, but don't worry. No one's feelings are intended to be hurt. If they get hurt, well, that's just on them. And the other thing is that it will be kind of a true death battle style. So it's kind of whatever character comes out the victor. So for instance, Settra can't cheat and use the thing of, oh, well, his body's destroyed, but he'll just resurrect back in his sarcophagus. Like, no. It's whoever is defeated in the hypothetical battle we'll be pitching. But we have a couple of different things that we'll be going through. And it's just going to be fun. And at the very, very end of it, all of you will get to ultimately decide who is the actual winner. No matter how good or bad me and Andy's arguments may be, y'all are going to be the actual determiners of what the fate of this epic showdown will be.
Absolutely. And do be aware, it's past midnight here in the UK. So if I fall asleep halfway through this, it's poor old Malekith that will suffer. So do make sure you keep me prodded and awake as we make our way through this. Now, we have decided a format already to ensure that we have as fair as a battle as we possibly can. And we're going to need your help to put this into place. So to begin with, we're going to decide the battlefield. This is where we're going to be pitching our battle between these two great powers. And we're going to each of us pitch where we would like the battle to take place. Now, that won't necessarily be the most obvious case. For example, it would be very obvious for you to say, well, it's quite clearly in Nagaroth, Good luck getting over there, Settra. That would be a bit weird. We're going to try and pick something that's lore accurate and really does feel right, but we're also going to be asking you to throw out some ideas into the comments, and we're going to pick one of those too. And we're then going to let you decide out there who are currently watching the show. Now, if you're watching this later, for example, on YouTube as a stream at a later date, you can't join in. I'm sorry. This is going to be very much for those of us who are live. You should have turned up live. So for those of you who are watching live, you can choose. And we're going to do a quick vote over on both Twitch and YouTube. And we're going to combine them all with their percentages. And whichever one wins out will be our battlefield for the day. And then after that,
we will move on to another vote. And it'll be the same format where Andy will pitch a version, then I will pitch a version. But while we are talking over our versions, the chat is going to be, y'all are going to be coming up with your own ideas, and we'll pick one that we think looks cool. And for that one, it's going to be about the actual conflict. So what kind of battle is it? Is it going to be an ambush? Is it going to be a naval battle? Is it going to be a sea? Is it going to be an open battle?
Naval battle.
Don't pick naval. Don't pick naval.
Yeah, pick naval.
Shit track record on the ocean. That wouldn't be a battle. It'd just be boring. Instant veto. And then there is, of course, the final vote, which will take us into the end, which Andy will explain for you real quick.
Indeed. So the first one is the battlefield itself. The second one is what sort of battle are we going to have? And the last one, and arguably the most important, is what sort of scale of battle are we going to have? Now, we're both going to pitch what we would like to have. It won't necessarily be the one that matches our character best because we kind of can't help telling stories because we like these things to make sense. So it might be an epic, huge, mighty conflict with our generals standing at the fore, bellowing orders, or we might do a small, intimate battle that takes place at the side of something perhaps larger, where the two of them just clash into each other one way or another. We'll both do a pitch, and then out there you can do your own ones too, and we'll pick one of those and pop them up for a vote as well, and then we're good to go.
Yep. And then at that point, me and Andy will both get a little segment to ourselves where we will talk about, with all of the factors having been calculated, how we think the battle would go down, which will almost assuredly end in us choosing our favorite champion winning. Though it'd be kind of hilarious if it didn't. And then after we both have proposed our version of how the battle would go, we will have a little... we'll each get a little window to talk about why the other guy's version is shit and that is not actually the way it would go. And then
I rebut thee.
The vote.
Indeed. And then we turn it over to you out there, because in the end, only you can decide who's going to win this vote. It's not up to us. We're obviously going to have our deeply biased and, in my case, absolutely correct opinions. And then after that, you can listen to them and say, actually, Andy, you're talking bullshit. Malekith would be crushed. And obviously you're wrong, but if that's what you think, you can click the Settra vote. Alternatively, if you think that the rightful Phoenix King, now let's just not get into that yet, the winner should be Malekith, click my one. Now we're going to have that vote over on the comments section of my YouTube channel. So you're going to need to make sure you dive over onto that side and click the vote that you like. But we will not be opening that vote until we have reached the point where we have concluded and we are finished and the argument's done, because we don't want any of you sneaky types out there immediately voting for your favorite one before we've even made our argument.
Yeah, at least pretend to listen to what we're saying.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this battle here could be completely unlike anything any of us expect. We don't know how this is going to turn out because we don't know how big the battle's going to be. We don't know how the characters will turn out. It's very possible that you out there will choose a battle where the two of them never meet and it's only their forces that meet, which will be a really different outcome to what I'm currently planning for.
I know, right?
So none of that, please. I'm intending on crushing Settra.
They have a political debate. No weapons.
No weapons. Yeah, so it's going to be down to your votes as to what sort of battle we have, and it's going to be down to your votes as to which side actually wins once you've heard us do what we hope will be compelling arguments.
All right. So, unless you've got, and we'll be doing the standard fare when it comes to like super chats and bits and stuff, where when we hit kind of breaking points,
we'll bring them
up. So we're going to do that real quick for the ones that have come in, and then we're going to get started.
I think that's perfect. And while he's quickly running through and finding those super chats, I'm just going to say, just remember that all answers are Malekith wins. That's all you need to recall. As you're making your way through this whole stream, just remember, Malekith is supreme.
Yeah, because the only way he can win is to rig it. That's the only way he's ever won anything, is just by rigging and cheating.
I'd say he's had it pretty tough, old Malekith. It's not just been by rigging and cheating, it's also been by pouring iron down people's throats.
BioVit, thank you for the bit. Settra and Malarian meet in honorable battle, but little did they know that the fetid puddle next to their battle had a dark, scaly secret. No fishmen! The fishmen are banned from who would wins. No fishmen. No fishmen allowed. Jonathan Scott, thank you for the super chat. Long last, the biggest question of our time will finally be answered. Which beef jerky is the best beef jerky, dry aged or flame broiled? Why is everybody being such assholes about the list? They both have trauma with fire. You don't need to be rude.
They really do.
Hi Sage, good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I am a night owl. This whole staying up past midnight, I chose this time because I thought it would rock.
Yeah, I was willing to go much earlier in the day.
I was like, come the midnight hour, Andy will slay all with Malarian, the Dread King. It will be fine. Yeah, midnight, not a problem.
Zar94, can we make all of Settra's titles be read before the battle? If so, will Malekith die of old age before that's over? I'm going to be honest. If Malekith kicked the bucket right then, there'd be something very suspicious about his sudden old age syndrome.
Yeah, given that we all know that Malekith is pretty much immortal as well, it's going to be one of those things that's pretty much unlikely to happen.
Biofoot, what if each combatant knew that a kiss from Marathi awaited the victor? I feel like it'd be a race to who dies first, to be honest, at that point.
Ooh,
you want to get a kiss from your mom, Malekith? That's your reward.
You really think he'd be bothered? I don't
That's
think
true.
so.
That's true.
I mean, that would just, mend many of the rifts that lie between them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she would not turn that into something to hurt him. Absolutely
Definitely not.
Hammond, make the battlefield in Terra Knock and Ulthu Juan.
Ulthu
Juan. Lore explanation, Malekith's invading Ulthu Juan at the same time. Settra heard some elf talking smack saying high elf chariots are better, so he came to kick ours. Then maybe that'll be an option we pick later. Mantassus Callum, Glory to Malekith, one true Phoenix King, Kimrian fleet. Okay, I'm going to be frank. If the Kimrian fleet has to go up against a Black Ark, it's going to be a little rough.
And I will say as well, just to make sure that we are super clear, for all it would be super amusing for me to use the end times version of Malekith, we won't be doing that. His 10 attacks are strength ridiculous. We don't want any of that end times nonsense coming in, because if we did, I would win handily, and we don't want that. We want this to be a fun fight that would be representative of your typical Warhammer battle too.
Grimlow versus Gelt win though. When Andy gets to 10,000 subs,
Grimlow clearly wins.
I don't even want to. All right, the Singe Master, is it possible to fit a square peg Settra into the round hole? The prophecy of demise. If it's even about math, the prophecy just say a male sorcerer, which Settra, by the most technical definition, does fulfill the criteria.
Oh, that is some weak ass bullshit, but I love it.
It's a very, very technical interpretation. I feel like calling Settra a sorcerer is kind of a little bit of a generous interpretation of his ability. Clearly, Settra wins since Malekith doesn't exist anymore. All right. So, without further ado, I believe I am slotted to take the first round and lead us in. So,
indeed. Now, before he goes, just so that we understand, we have not prepared for this in any way, shape, or form. We don't know how the battlefield's going to turn out. We don't know how big the battle will be. We have no idea what we're going to be fighting about. We just know the two characters that we have at hand. You are going to be deciding, so it's quite likely that the outcome of this is going to be so far away from what we expect. So please be aware that as we start spinning the various lines that we spin, none of this is prepared. We have no idea where it's going, and that's half the fun for us.
Yeah, and we did not consult one another beforehand about ideas. Like we are
none.
It is ad lib, which is great. That makes a lot of it fun. So Battlefield Part 1. Once again, I'm going to give my proposal on what I think the ideal battlefield should be for this matchup, which is obviously going to favor my side. Then Andy will do the same, and then we're going to turn it to you guys, and we will open up the forum where me and Andy will pick out one that we think sounds cool. Then we will do a vote, just to be perfectly clear. All right, so my vote is painfully obvious, which is that I think the battle should take place in the sands of Nehekara between the fleet port of Terror, the city of Zandri, and Khemri, the city of the kings, where the Dark Elves have maneuvered their way into the desert. The sun is blazing down, or hell, it can even be freezingly cold at night, but I prefer the sun being up in the sky. And the Dark Elves are about to learn the horrors of coming into Nehekara uninvited to steal things that do not belong to them, because they can't make a damn self-sustaining economy and they got to steal from everybody else. So they're going to come on in and be dealing with the extreme heat of the weather, the blindness inflicted by the sun, which is so clearly favors the Tomb Kings because it's one of their literal gods, and all the horrors and shenanigans that Settra could unleash in hypothetical battle scenarios. Because remember, y'all will get to help determine what kind of battle it is. Whether it's an open battle where they meet each other fairly, but it could be an ambush where maybe the forces of the Tomb Kings are lurking below the sands and start crawling up amongst the Dark Elf formations, and it turns into a complete slaughter. So that's going to be my initial proposal, is in the desert of Nehekara between Khemri and Zandri. Maybe along the River Mortis just for funds.
Yeah, well, you know, nah. Nah. Okay, what we want to do is build ourselves a story. Exactly how are these two mighty forces meeting? So, typically, the good old Witch King does not go abroad unless he has a very good reason for doing so. That being the case, I should like to provide him with one. I should like to say, why is Malekith going abroad? I'm not going to say that Khemri has somehow sailed across the ocean with their king on a big boat and pyramids all over the place as they somehow got past Ulthuan, the gods alone know how, land in Nagaroth, and somehow have a fight all the way up to Nagarond. That's clearly nonsense. He'd be sunk like 44 times before he got there. Instead, let's take good old Malekith and have something we know he is interested in, and that's his circlet of iron. That mysterious artifact that is wrapped around Malekith's head and provides him with extraordinary magical power, an artifact of unknown origin. And let's have whispers of its potential origin rise in, of all places, Norska, way up in the north, far away from both the lands of the dead and Malekith's natural territory. He's arrived here to try and get himself access to potentially more of those lost secrets, and he has taken along with him a great black ark filled with all of the great might that he has at his disposal, but not too much of it, because he doesn't want any of the Black Council to be aware of exactly what he's chasing. He doesn't want any of those other 100 great noble houses that normally gather behind him to be there, because that would potentially give them access to the very secrets that he wants. But as we all know, good old Settra is almost destined to find himself up in Norska, because there was a pesky Chaos Chappie who went all the way down to the good old sands, nabbed a bunch of artifacts, went all the way back up again, and Settra, being the vindictive sausage that he is, will go all the way north. And I'm choosing this one because this happens during the times of the old world, and that makes it somewhat topical. So what we can have ourselves is a great battle in the snowy wastes of the north, in the mountains of Norska, with sitting on the very foot of an ancient city, long destroyed, now nothing more than ghosts and horrors from the past, underneath which there are some ancient malign artifacts that both sides wouldn't mind getting their hands on. And Settra, being Settra, has gone charging in here, not looking for Malekith or indeed anyone else, but for the very Chaos Champions that stole his stuff. And this happens to be where they are. So we've got ourselves two forces, both outside their natural environment, although it's fair to say, I do come from the land of chill. I do think that possibly the good old icy waste might fall on my side a little.
I realize that Andy is using his GM powers to make it sound like it's like a natural, this is the obvious choice. But what you need to realize is that the Tomb Kings, the Dark Elves are not going to be able to, shouldn't be taking advantage of the idiocy of chaos. No, they should have to pay for their own dues. They come to steal shit from from the Tomb Kings, just like we see in the Total War trailer, right? When the Tomb Kings were initially introduced in Total War, we get a big, awesome visual of a Dark Elf army camped outside the pyramids, stealing shit that doesn't belong to them, coming for gold and artifacts of power and all these mighty things to look down on a civilization. They have no reason to go to Norska. There's barely anything of value there, a Circlet of Iron. Clearly, Malekith would know he could find something even better in Nehekhara, because those lands have been around and been a much stronger civilization for thousands of years.
Humans? You really think humans have any interest to me at all? Humans?
Nagash himself came from there. Even Malekith's got to respect Nagash a little bit.
Oh, no, I love that. So we've got ourselves 2 scenarios to begin with. They're both awesome. So we have ourselves on one side, Khemri, with the Dark Elves doing what we all know they love to do, raiding. And on the other side, we have Norska, where the Dark Elves and the Undead have both arrived for their own individual purposes. We do, however, want a third option. So now is the time to jump into the chat, throw something super awesome in there, and we want something that is quite different to what we've already offered. Now, I obviously think that whatever you choose should benefit me. So do take a few moments to consider that before you make your reply. But truth be told, I'd much rather it was something that was relatively challenging for both of us. Something that makes for a good story, but equally would make it perhaps difficult for us to engage in a way that brings out our strengths. Because in the end, we want this to be an interesting battle, not one where Malekith obviously wins because he's so much better.
All right, so and the Twitch poll that's going on right now, ignore it because they forgot that there's going to be a third option. That's okay. The mods will figure it out. So okay, chat. This is the moment to just throw all your ideas at the wall and try and make it like sound a little exciting. Just don't just say like Bretonia. That's too vague. Try and say like a forest in Bretonia, or like and maybe give like just a small reason, like just a sentence. But you can have a sentence, manslib.
So, for example, that's a bit more than a sentence. Settra and Malekith both went exploring the same Dawi ruins, as you do, and ended up fighting within the Underway. That's one way.
That would be very interesting.
Down in the Galleon's graveyard. If you don't know what that is, go take our... yeah, I'm sticking that too. Go check our stream about the mall. That's definitely a fight that would be fun.
Sunk, but he's like, I'm already here.
This one is beyond unlikely. Fighting Obsidian ruin the College of Magic, so neither can use their magic. Oh, holy moly!
Who let those two in here?
Go for it.
So far, that's my favorite so far. I'm just kind of checking. I'm seeing a lot of different. That's actually not a bad kind of lore focused option. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to find the comment in here. I don't hate that of a ruined elven colony that was once part of Nehekhara's empire, but the Dark Elves, there's something of value there that maybe the elves left behind from the original Elven Empire.
Oh, we're getting some much longer ones. We've got everything from the jungles of Lustria to, I think both of them finding their way into Lustria would be interesting as well. Powerful artifacts for both of them. It's very true. And Lustria is definitely within Malekith's reach. I'm not so sure it's an obvious choice for Khemri, though. We have the almost inevitable Realms of Chaos. Yeah, the Realms of Chaos. It's going to pop up more than once. Both of them invading the southern human realms is Tilia. Now, Tilia also came up from Mandatus. I spotted him staying that above as well. Settra conquering, Malekith heading a raiding fleet. I will say that generally for Malekith, my preference would not be having a generally leading a raiding fleet. That's just my own preference because he kind of doesn't. He leaves that to all his other losers and minions below, unless there's a specific reason he wants to be there personally, which is why I spun a personal reason into my version. So if you've got a way of trying to personally get these two characters involved with each other, do try and drop it down.
Both of them drawn to the Isle of Albion for arcane secrets. Maybe even a lost book of Nagash.
I could see the Isle of Albion being a pretty good one, particularly if you consider Dark Shadows and that campaign and how it fell out. If you don't know about that, go check out the Dark Shadows booklet that came with White Dwarf quite a long time ago.
Okay, I'm gonna give y'all like 2 more minutes to throw ideas at us, and then we're gonna start the vote. Let's see. Both seek to destroy Nagash, so they fight outside Nagashazar. Oh man, that
up at Nagashazar.
Yeah, that would be a pretty spicy place for them to fight.
That would be spicy.
Fighting over who gets to kill Nagash.
Yeah, totally. My vote both faces Vampire Coast by any chance? Yeah, Vampire Coast. An obvious place mixing undead with the sea. I can see where that one would go. Quite a few mentions for the Black Pyramid. I would say that that's a bit too close to Loremaster Sotek.
Yeah, I feel like that would kind of just fall under the
yeah, that's yeah.
You'd be fighting in the desert.
That's a classic. A random shade took a coin from a pyramid and off to Nagron they go. There was a part of me that almost chose that rather than going for.
Imagine like the assassin steals a single coin and just hides it under like Malekith's throne chair, just like slips it under there, so Settra comes all the way up.
I'll always bring up this one because any opportunity to have ourselves power swords and bolt pistols in this battle would be freaking awesome.
Fighting an isle. But we'll see. If we were going to give the Amazons that power, I feel like Settra and Malekith would be in trouble.
But it's also one that does work pretty well for the ancient Albion temples, because anyone that played through the Dark Shadows campaign, they had literal equivalents to power gloves. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for becoming a member, by the way. Really appreciate it.
Lovely.
The Shores of Grand Cathay. That's a long trip for both of them.
It is a long trip for both of them, but a cool idea.
Okay. I think we're ready to start the vote. I'm thinking I like either the because of what kind of unique disadvantages it would give both of them, I kind of like either fighting in the like a broken part of the underway, or I like fighting on the Isle of Albion for the chat vote.
All right. So the underway for me for a story seems much harder. How do you get them both down there? But I can see them landing in Albion. Plus, if you take a look at some of the older stories of the Dark Elves, take, for example, the very old story where the Dark Elves were over in Albion and mixed up. This is one of the novels, one of the original ones. Yeah, there's a lot of Dark Elf stroke Albion connection. So my preference would be Albion. So how about Albion, Norska, and Khemri? All right. Number one.
So that is going to be the first vote. It is going to be a 5-minute vote, and this is a good time for y'all to just kind of chat casually with us about what you're thinking about so far and what one you're hoping for. I will be so where is the battlefield? And your first answer is the Isle of Albion. Second is Desert of Khemri, and last is something of Norska. What's a good term for
the snowy mountains of Norska?
Sure, snowy mountains of Norska.
Indeed.
All right, the poll is up.
Excellent. Get voting out there. And while you're voting, do remember, I have a little game coming soon. Make sure that you go and sign up for more information.
Yeah, y'all don't have a pre-order date on that yet, do you?
No, we don't. The second I have a pre-order date, trust me, everybody will know about it. But if you want to go check it out, there's a comment that I've just dropped into the chat where you can go and sign up for more information. The second they've got the pre-order date, that will be popping up. I'll bring it up on screen so you can see it. Hey, it's on screen.
And remember, whenever you're supporting one of us, you're supporting both of us. So whatever Andy's doing, please make sure you go support that with the board games and rookery stuff. I know I'm going to be picking up the board game because what I've seen of it actually looks very, very exciting.
It's so fun.
And I always love having new board games added to my house.
Indeed, and it's a really fun board game where you go stabbing your way across a city in the service of a great patron. It's loads of fun. Anyway, that all aside, we're getting the votes in. Do we have any ideas of where they're beginning to fall yet? Because I'm not tracking them on my side.
Yeah, so on YouTube, the Isle of Albion is obliterating the other two.
Okay.
And on Twitch, so far, it is the same. I'll put it this way. Albion is in the 70s%.
Okay, it's Albion.
So while I will allow the votes to continue until they're done, because you never know, people in chat, if you want to rally and try and give one of the sides an advantage, now is the time to do it. Khemri's got a little bit of support on it's funny, Khemri has more support on Twitch, but Norska has more support on YouTube.
Okay, so given that it's going to be Albion, I recommend that anyone who's watching this live, you're watching this later, go grab yourself the map of Albion that came with Dark Shadows. If you just write Warhammer map Albion into Google, you'll get yourself several options. The one we're looking for is the one you'll probably get over in the Warhammer wiki, the very first map image that you'll see there. Yeah, there's the very book itself.
Yes.
Now, this map has lots of fun, exciting places that we could be battling over, whether it's the Isle of Wight, which has obviously a particularly undead touch to it, or whether we go for the good old Citadel of Lead right in the middle, which is pretty much the old site of Nottingham itself. which is always going to be a fun one, fighting underneath the Citadel of Lead and presumably Warhammer World just sitting in the back somewhere. And we can all have a little visit.
Battle, Bellicor from the top rope.
Indeed. Or we could go for the Great Ogham Circle, a place that was going to be actually was going to be a central part of the Path of the Old Ones campaign that Gav Thorpe and I were writing for our fantasy roleplay. That was going to be a core location. Yeah, there's lots of fun things here. So do take a wee look around that map as we decide exactly where we're going to fight. The most likely option is, though, that he's going to be landing somewhere near the south as he makes his way up to maybe Norska or somewhere around there. I'm most likely to be coming in from the west somewhere. So somewhere that's in the southwest is not a bad idea. Maybe down Trogland way, but there's a lot of orcs and goblins down there. So maybe a little bit either north or a little bit over to the west. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that so far. Well, it's interesting because if this were to take place after the original Albion campaign, the Dark Elves actually did have they established a little bit of not a settlement, but they've kind of established a port, I think, on the southern edge of Albion, if I recall correctly. But I do like the narrative that's been built so far of Settra's on his way up for the War of Sand and Snow, on his way to Norska, stops in Albion for a little bit of prepping for that final leg of the journey, only to run into an issue. But I think between the Isle of Wights and I think probably, either I can see the Citadel of Lead, the Great Ogham Stones, or the Isle of Wights really being pretty strong feature locations. But I think that'll tie in really nicely to the next section being about talking about how the actual conflict would work.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I do believe I might be going first as to how this conflict could unfold.
That's true. And if you'd like, you can go ahead because the polls are wrapping up and Albion won by a fucking landslide.
Yep, Albion it is. Okay, so we're already in completely unfamiliar territory. This is not where I expected our battle to be running.
I've already been thrown off immensely. Thanks, chat.
This is great. Thanks, guys. This is going to be the best fight ever. So, Malekith must have reason for being over here. And I am going to stick with at least my pitch for this, being that he is interested in artifacts, loosely put, of the old ones or artifacts from a previous era. And the entire raiding party has landed here because the Mists of Albion, for one reason or Bellicor other, have begun to lift, allowing the easy drop on the island. The news has spread. It's enough that Malekith himself has come over in his Black Ark to land here. And I think a really nice place to have our big battle take place would be the Great Ogham Circle itself. Imagine yourself, if you could, tiers and tiers and tiers of great Stonehenge-like stones, but far bigger, because as we all know, Warhammer dials everything up to not just 11, but at least 47. It really makes everything much bigger. And this great circle of stones is a repository of magic, one of the center points of the magic that floods across the islands of Albion and is powering much of the great mists that swirl around it. This obviously has similar, let's say, notes to the great mists that also protect Ulthuan. And he's here investigating this, along with, I'm going to pitch the battle-sized, at least the type of battle as me arriving here.
Well,
so
we're not the scale yet. Remember?
Yeah, no. My preference would be I'm here investigating. They are there, so we're looking at a pitched battle over the Great Ogham Circle. Neither of which are willing to back down because they're both dicks. Settra, as far as he's concerned, is not backing down. And you must remember, on the good old undead side, they have no great fear of loss of numbers. To them, it's just going to be bring them back up again. Oh, they've died. Bring them back up again. Oh, they've died. So they don't have the same fear that the Dark Elves, for example, have. But I'm going to say that there is something magical here that has drawn Malekith in. There is something that he desperately wants. So he is pushing forward towards that circle. And if there's something between him and it, well, it's going down. And if it's just some piddly skeletons, whatever, not a problem. That is loosely how I see it unfolding. What do you think?
So my counter proposal is that I'm going to steal most of Andy's ideas, which is the true way that Warhammer Fantasy works, is to take most of what you like from someone else and then change it a little bit. And what I'm going to say is that instead of a pitch battle, it ends up being an ambush because the Dark Elves, in their incredible pride and arrogance, have come to the Ogham Stones among the marshes and the fens and that cloying thick mist where you can't really see that well, and everything is like sound doesn't work the way it should, and it's hard to navigate around Albion. It's hard to know what's going on. But Settra, being undead and having senses that go beyond mere mortal kin, is able to be aware that there's something funky going on at the Ogham Stones. And wielding this blessed blade of Petra, he has the sun in his hand to burn away the mist. He sees just fine, and his chariots and his riders are ready to move across the island to conquer anyone in their way, and they come across the Dark Elves a bit unprepared. So it's an ambush, as the forces of the Tomb Kings knew someone was tampering with the Ogham Stones and have fell upon them using fast-moving units such as chariots, their faster-moving statuary, and their skeletal horsemen, with their eventual ranks of infantry coming up as they do, but, traversing across bogs is a bitch. So a bit of a lightning strike blitzkrieg ambush, mostly led by chariots and big monsters and cavalry.
Love it. Okay, so we've got ourselves on one side a large pitched battle, and then we have ourselves now. Not that I'm going to say that my idea is better, but we have ourselves on the other side an ambush in the same place by someone wielding a giant glowing sword that definitely no one would notice as they move through the mists and the marshes.
It's awfully bright today.
the mists and the marshes were quite clearly the chariots would have no problems. I love this. As an alternative, the entire island of Albion yawns before us. If you've got an alternative idea for exactly how this battle could be met, how do we get together? We've decided, obviously, it's going to be at the Great Circle, but how's this going to pan out? Have we got an ambush, a pitch battle? Is it going to be something completely different? Are we perhaps going to be invaded by a third force? I don't know, local truthsayers or big giants lobbing down boulders once the battle gets started.
Or whatever.
Yeah, or Warg the Orcs. So if you've got any other ideas, drop it in and say right now into the comments.
Just to be clear, this is a type of battle. So think of it's like Andy said, both they're under attack from a third faction, or it ends up being that there's like inclement weather that forces them into a unique skirmish type combat. Fishmen. No, I'm putting an X on the fishmen. No fishmen allowed.
I would just like to say, Sly, I completely agree with you there. I mean, how could the ambush? If Settra needs to always be announced, there would be at least a 1 day and a half announcement before we even hit the ambush.
Nakaf couldn't get through the marsh fast enough. He's having to talk as he walks.
And he is the king of the... Except, of course, he doesn't breathe. But, hilarious. So, yes, if you've got any further ideas, which may indeed involve a certain... Be'lakor, then do feel free to drop them down. I mean, as Mark there, Albion is Be'lakor's stomping grounds, as we all know.
Remember, guys, don't just say Be'lakor. Just put a little thing with it. Like, Be'lakor has lured them to fight one another, but he emerges at a pivotal moment.
Here we have one. A giant storm causes the Black Orc to beach itself right next to the Tomb King camp, causing an impromptu siege. Now we've got an idea. Nice one, Revan.
Spicy.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Pitch battles there with Demon Ambush. That's kind of what we have. Thanks very much for the cheer there, by the way. It's a free-for-all where the ever chariot Ek comes in from...
Surtha Ek. Oh, God. Surtha Ek. Andy, do you know who Surtha Ek is?
Yes. The ancient elder god Michael Moorcock rises from the mist and begins attacking both factions. I mean, it's only right and fair. I mean, after all, Games Workshop trademarked one of the things he made.
I was going to say slapping them with, how dare you use my intellectual property?
Yeah, quite. How could you do that and claim it's yours? The ground starts to shake. Well, they realize the entire was a giant dragon. That's one hell of a dragon over there.
Oh, my God. I didn't realize that Kraken Rock had a much larger... wife or something.
Yeah, totally. So I'm actually quite liking the idea of our storm-blown Black Ark.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I love that. That one jumped out at me big time.
Yeah, it jumped out at me as well. And there's a lot of really good ideas now beginning to come in though with greenskins, and we've got some.
This isn't a terrible one either. A double ambush as both armies cannot see through the mist and stumble into one another, causing mass chaos.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure we could pitch that one in somehow too. So, will we go for then a pitched battle across the Great Stone Circle? They both have something that they want in there. Alternatively, an ambush in the mist and the fog as the undead rise, presumably at night or some equivalent, and move swiftly into attack the Dark Elves? Or do we go for number 3, where a great storm has risen off in the sea of, let's say, chaos and driven the Black Ark way off course, which is very similar to the plot, actually, of the very first novel that I ever read about Dark Elves. And they get beached on Albion. And this is exactly where Settra et al. Are ready to attack. We have ourselves an unexpected siege, which does mean that we're going to have to come up with a good reason for why the heck Settra wants to besiege these Dark Elves in the first place.
I will say, I love the mental image of the Dark Elves beaching, and Settra sees them and goes, "The cop! Intro! Do the intro!" And the Dark Elves are like trying to fix the Black Ark while Nakaf's just talking at them.
So we've got our 3 options. Are we all happy with the 3 options? I am.
Yes. Yep. So So the 3 options, as Andy explained them, but we're going to have the pitch battle where they're keenly aware of one another and they have time to set up, and it's kind of your standard Warhammer battle.
Classic battle, a classic ambush, and a classic siege. Each of which have got their own cool stories.
I'm going to say pitch battles by the... Oh, no. I'm going to say pitch battle beneath the stones. That sounds cooler. Beneath the stones, ambush in the mists, and Black Ark, the beach, the beach siege. There you go.
All right, the votes are off. While we're waiting for the votes, and before we say anything else, obviously the ambush where I'm on the back foot is a stupid one. Don't go for that.
Okay, I will say, I agree. Only because that one person brought up that it means that Settra wouldn't get to do all his titles. That is
by the way,
only thing that made me go, okay, that's fair.
This is a bloody marvelous idea, by the way. I'm really enjoying this. For those of you who don't know, I used to do this sort of shit all the time back when I worked for Games Workshop, because you'd have lots of stupid arguments about which character could do what and which one couldn't. And when you're young, which I was at the time, these things actually matter. As you're like, no, my character's better than your one. I can make this work.
Yeah.
So it's always super fun. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Wouldn't be surprised if the siege does really well, because
I'm starting to wonder if chat's just gonna vote for themselves the entire time.
Those ideas are brilliant.
Ideas.
Superb. So while we're here, if you haven't already subscribed, do please press that subscription button right now, and do also press like. It makes all the difference to Sotek and all of his lovely numbers.
Yeah, also in relating to that, very, very important, guys, Lawhammer is super fucking close to 5K. Like 100 subs or something like that.
It is.
Remember, when he gets to 5K, Queek is it's not quite done yet. It's very close. It's going through editing, which is going to take a while. But like the second that hits, like it is like I am not doing anything else but Queek. And it gets out as out, and it's going to be hopefully worth the wait. But like we're pretty much there. Like all
yes, Queek will be brilliant. I'm looking forward to that a lot. So make sure that you do pop over. Do press subscribe over on Lawhammer. That's the YouTube side. If you want to know exactly where we are, do just type Lawhammering in and you'll find me. Or alternatively, if you happen to be watching this very moment, no matter where you are, there are buttons you can press right now to show Sotek just how much you love his marvelous channels. Alrighty, how's the votes going over there? I'm quite excited by this one.
Yeah, it's definitely Twitch is so heavily on Beach Black Ark, it's not even fun. Like Twitch is skewing the vote. YouTube is a little more close.
What have we got on YouTube?
YouTube, you've got the pitch battle at 29%, the ambush at 14%, and the beach siege at 57%.
Well, it's looking like it's going to be a siege, isn't it? Unless anybody out there changes the numbers now. If you want it to be something else, get in there.
Vote quick. Like literally the next couple seconds. If I don't see like noticeable numbers coming in, then we're moving on to beach siege.
Yeah, beach siege. Oh, I'm liking the idea of this.
Beach siege.
We need to build a good story for what's going on.
Honestly, would make for a kick-ass battle plan for a fantasy battle, like for like all your minis and stuff. A beach Black Ark, that is that's good shit.
Super awesome. Okay, and just while we're here, this was also, and perhaps unexpectedly, almost exactly a plot point that was going to be in Past of the Old Ones. The adventure I was going to write with Gav Thorpe. It's actually astonishing.
I want to remind everyone, we did not
never going to happen.
This is not, this is not intentional.
Actually hilarious. Gav, if you happen to be watching this at any point, perhaps we should have taken notes from people out there rather than making this stuff up ourselves. I love this.
Dr. Blood,
so how's it looking?
What's up? I think we're good to call it. The Beach Siege is going to be the result.
Alrighty, so who goes first out of the pair of us for the Beach Siege?
I go first for the next section.
Excellent. I shall sit back to guffaw at your silly ideas.
So the final section, we are now talking about the scale or the scope of the battle. So how many people are involved? What kind of forces are going to be arrayed? What are things going to overall look like? So my suggestion is that overall, this is going to be a fairly titanic battle. This is the full legion of Settra that he has prepared over the course of years to go into Norska, which he will eventually use to successfully raise Norska from one end of the continent to the other on an unstoppable tide of fury. And this force he has brought to Albion to rest. And now a Black Ark has shown up, and to him, this is a threat. It's something between him and where he wants to go. And the thing is, Settra doesn't fucking do diplomacy. He looks at that Black Ark and he says, that thing's in my way, but more importantly, I could maybe use that to accelerate my plans when it comes to Norska. This is mine now. And the Dark Elves go, you what, mate? And Settra takes that as offense, because that's how Settra do. This leads to an epic scale confrontation where the Dark Elves, although they are beached, are able to bring all of their forces to bear. Granted, they are on the defensive, so they're going to have a very, very hard time making use of anything that wants to leave the Black Ark, such as their chariots or their Dark Riders or things like that. So they may have a bit of a disadvantage because they're closed in, whereas Settra did bring everything. He's ready to go for taking down an entire continent against one measly Black Ark. But it'll almost be kind of a last stand type scenario where the Dark Elves are desperately trying to hold off Settra long enough, maybe just to defeat Settra so that they can get the Black Ark off the beach and continue on their merry way, because honestly, a Tomb King fleet is not going to have a great time trying to pursue a Black Ark.
Is that it? Are you done?
Sure.
Sure. Alrighty, so on the one side, we have ourselves what could be only described as a titanic conflict with the Settra-led forces on one side and presumably extending off towards the horizon infinitum against our tiny little Black Ark. Yeah, nah. And nah. That doesn't sound like fun. What I think we should have is ourselves a proper pitched battle between these two characters, because that's what we're looking for. We want to see Malekith face off against Settra, and we don't want to have a giant battle getting in the way of that. So how about instead we have ourselves a little bit of a tiny story. Our Black Ark has crashed into the rocks of the south of Albion.
Nope,
and this is it's crashed into the rocks of Albion. It's stormy and there's mists everywhere, and the harpies are getting blown into their caves. Sea monsters have come out from the Black Ark underneath, and they've delved up, and some of them have died on the rocks themselves as they've attempted to try and pull the Black Ark away from the worst of what's on offer here. The Dark Elves get trapped here for a good week. Malekith at the top, because we all know he's here for something relatively nefarious, is getting more and more angry. There is, let's say, a lot of difficulty up in the higher ranks of the Dark Elves as they're attempting to fix this. Great sorceries are beginning to pull off. They're attempting to pull themselves out. It's all failing. The Dark Elves themselves start raiding outwards, because that's what they do. We've got ourselves scouts moving across the land. Dark Riders have spread out across the south of Albion. They've made a couple of contacts in particular. They've done some raids down into what they don't quite realize is a fucking enormous, huge fleet that has come from the south that's making its way up towards Norska, because we all know the blood and the snow and the awfulness that's about to come up there. And they somewhat foolishly sneak in during the day. These forces are dead, remember. They're just all lying there dead as they're waiting out the storm. There is nothing moving. And foolishly, they take some things that they really shouldn't have. And they return them back, happily counting away gleefully at these weird artifacts that they've picked up. And then, of course, the storms begin to abate. The undead army awakens, and certain things are missing. So they come calling as they make their way down towards where they know the artifacts are. Not only has he got to go off north to go kick ass, chew some gum, but he's got to come down and deal with these other folks as well who've done the deed of theft of his things. So he's arrived there, and instead of us having a big siege, just that, we will take up the battle not during the siege. This siege has gone on for days. Magic. Great explosions, monsters rising from the sea. The undead have crashed against this multiple times, and they have fought their way through, and we will pitch this battle in the upper heights of the Black Ark. We're talking a weekend. The undead have been relentless, unstopping. The Witch King himself has refused to take part in the battle so far because it's beneath him. This is not his problem. This is not his, but they're reaching the top. Settra is leading those troops as well, and they're charging into the equivalent of a great throne room with Malekith sitting at the far end, where finally he stands up. And all of the court around him turns round and realize that their party has been interrupted, because that's what they've been doing for the last week. As the great siege has laid around them, they've been indolently resting, doing what nobles like to do, laughing at the feckless attempts by their various soon-to-be probably dead generals and their attempts to hold them back. But now it's become personal, and we will have ourselves a running conflict in a large throne room at the top of a Black Ark, where Settra and his chariot has got all the way up there. How? Who cares? It's fucking awesome. He's going to be slamming in there because that's cool. We'll have
skeletons carry my chariot.
we go. We've got ourselves whatever he wants to have stomping up the various hallways. The Dark Elves are laying slain down at that end, and finally the court of Nagaroth is about to take to the field. And this is where everything changes. So a much smaller conflict. We're looking, in terms of size, about the same size as a Total War game. Maybe even a Warhammer game. Something much smaller and intimate in a tight corridor where we can fight down its length and do whatever we wish in terms of screaming skulls, spells, and whatever else. But most importantly, our two main characters are there, and both of them are fucking pissed. And that gives us a perfect opportunity for a fight!
Well, that may be true. Keep in mind that if you go with that option, you're missing out on the legions of thousands, war machines trading fire with each other, walls being torn down by monsters, flying things coming down and settling upon various Tomb King regiments that are trying to force their way up onto the beach Black Ark, tearing through holes open through which sea monsters come crawling through, with Settra and Malekith fighting these kind of battles where they're finally forced to confront one another because you have a dragon swooping down, terrorizing the Tomb King forces, and Settra finally has enough and goes to confront the only genuine thing that can stop his army at this point.
You do know Dark Elves, don't you? The only genuine thing. My entire court are thousands of years old. They make good old Settra look like a child. But yes, we have ourselves two loose battles here. We've got an enormous siege. We've got the sort of battle that Total War would cry at. You'd need a PC that cost approximately $500 million just to run a small part of it. This is a truly enormous battle, or alternatively, the battle is already done, and we're dealing with a close-pitched battle down the length of a throne room instead. What would you rather? There's the first two options. The third option is entirely up to you. So, chat, what do you have for us? We're looking for something that is different to what we've already pitched. It could just be one-on-one. And if it is, we don't want you to just say one-on-one. Give us a reason.
There it is. Malekith challenges Settra to a game of mid ball. How are you on the pitch, Settra?
Yes, Settra! Taking you down! Woof! I love that idea. I'm loving this whole stream. It's the best idea we've ever had.
Just fucking break into a Blood Bowl game in the middle of it. There's only one way to settle this.
I challenge you to Blood Bowl. Somebody also earlier made the comment that Malekith just runs out of patience and just kills Nakaf, which I think is also a really funny idea.
No, I mean, hey, that'll come up in like our little discussion of how things go down about the whole Lich Priest conundrum.
Yeah, totally. Wow.
Let's see, one-on-one rap battle. Yeah, I'm sure.
Epic Warhammer Battles of History.
I know there's a channel that does that because I've seen a Teto Echo versus Lord Skroke rap battle. It's surprisingly good because the Teto Echo, whoever wrote the lines, the Teto Echo uses actual Saurian in some of his lyrics. It's just great. What would their Mortal Kombat battle intro phrases be? Well, we all know Settra's. Like the moment Settra would come onto the computer screen, he would say, "Settra does not serve. Settra rules." Because that's just a kill line. It's a killer line. I don't know if Malekith has any particular famous phrases. Like in Total War, he has some very memey phrases, like his whole thing about how he hates snow, which is just so funny. When Malekith loses, yep, that was Andy was talking about. Yeah, he probably would, to be honest with you, especially because Nakaf, the way Nakaf talks is funny because he doesn't actually speak because he doesn't talk. Instead, it's more like he projects his voice into your mind. So if anything, it'd be even more irritating because it's not like you could just ignore him. And then Christian, thank you. There's no message with it, but thank you very much.
You're wrong. Thank you very much, Christian. Appreciate it.
All right, let's look to see if any of these jump out.
There's quite a few Blood Bowl options in here.
Yeah. So remember that this is kind of looking at like the scale of the battle as far as like how many individuals are taking place as well as kind of like the individual nuance. So you could say like, oh, it's like a minor fight between maybe only a handful of individuals, like the greatest champions of both characters and then the characters themselves, or like Andy said,
as Ricky suggests here, which is basically we have ourselves a very small skirmish between Settra and whatever is sitting around him as his primary honor guard versus whatever can be dropped down on him from an outside source. So that would be a very small personal battle, for example. But we've already dismissed to a degree the surprise. In that we're having ourselves somewhat of a siege, but this would be one way of relieving the siege, which is I'm going to attack effectively, as we all know, the weak point of undead armies, and that is all of that, whoever the Hierophant is, who is responsible for keeping all of this undead going. And if we take out that Hierophant, we're gonna win. I mean, it's that simple. And as we all know, good old Malekith is quite a magical character, arguably far more magical than any of their good old like priests. And that being the case, yeah, I could see something dropping down on them like this.
This is why we bring extras.
Lots of extras. So yeah, that's quite a fun idea. So things like that are a good idea.
Yep. So see, trying to look if any of these really jump out at me.
Quite liking the idea of the creator of the usurper to show himself. Speaks to a deeper understanding of what happened than I think possibly Settra would be fully aware of.
Yeah, that actually is quite an interesting concept, and that would be quite literally a 1v1, which to be fair is something that Settra would do. Tomb Kings love challenges.
I could see that.
That is a key part of their culture.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Malekith goes tired. Sally's forth from the depths of the Black Ark with everything contained, just charges, quite like that. What do we have there? Blast Settra and retinue, but Settra survives because of the brooch and backfires, killing Malekith's court too. But the spell shield leaves Malekith unharmed, just the two less. So that's another call for effectively 1v1. An outside force, Be'lakor in this case, pulls them apart, sets them both upon each other. And again, we're looking at some sort of 1v1 offering.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it looks like chat's pretty much settled on a 1v1.
Yeah, I think so.
I love that. Okay, Hobby Squire, I just want to say I love that your profile picture is the ghoul judge character with the entrails for his wig.
I love that one. It just makes me smile every time I see the model because it's clearly disgusting.
Stream, but would we have a side conflict between Nakaf and Kurin Darkhand?
So, I'm gonna actually drop in here and say, I personally would prefer not to. Why, you might ask? Because that would be an awesome idea. Because we could do that. As a future, who would win? So I, on my descriptions, will be attempting to avoid such things because I'm far more interested in kicking Settra's butt than dealing with any of his tiny little lackeys. They suck. I don't care about them, no matter how much they think they're important. They just suck. So I personally won't be dealing with that, so that I can do it later and give it the proper service that it deserves.
Yeah, that sounds like a coward talking about how scared they are, a killing blow on the cuff.
All right, they all die.
Settra rolls up and yells, "Hector!" Just turns into Troy for some reason.
Oh, Troy. I was like, what Hector? Oh, Troy. Yeah, Troy. There we go.
All right. Okay. So I think those are our three options. So we have the, we'll say, colossal scale conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Colossal scale battle. Then we have maybe throne room skirmish would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Throne room skirmish. So the throne room skirmish would be that you're dealing with like tens or like maybe at most hundreds of individuals fighting in a battle. Colossal scale, we're talking thousands upon thousands fighting, and then epic duel 1v1.
Bringing up this one because Riven thought it was missed, so just to make sure that it definitely wasn't. Hoping for the siege off. We got that. Black Ark R2 versus Zandri. The way both factions are bringing siege weapons. We could drop a little bit of that.
We're very close to that.
Yeah, we are very close to that. So you had a really good call by the way.
Yeah, that was a hell of a call from earlier. All right.
Yeah, it was.
So the poll has started. The poll is on Twitch and it is on YouTube. So go vote now.
Let's see where this one's going to land, because I actually don't know which one I would prefer.
I'm sitting there trying to how am I gonna do this?
Yeah, totally. I'm exactly the same. I'm like, which one do I do out of this one? So I'm super keen to see how this one goes. Now, as we said before, do please press like, do please press subscribe, and do please drop down and check out my old board game that's coming out very soon. Mark Gibbons and Andy Chambers. And yes, I'll take any opportunity for that. I am
this vote people are struggling with.
Oh, is it much closer? Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I will say, hey, and just saying, if you're watching the stream, if you want to open this on YouTube and YouTube simultaneously, so you can vote in both, you can. There's no rule against it.
Indeed.
Twitch has a lot of power per vote right now because we're using percentages, not just individual votes.
100% doing that. So if we end up very close, what we're going to do is we're going to add the percentage of the Twitch vote to the percentage of the YouTube vote. So say, for example, we got 40% said siege on one side and 20 on the other. That'd be a 60% total that we would use to compare our numbers with. So if you do want to vote on both sides, you are more than welcome to do so. So I'm super excited. How's the votes going so far?
It's pretty tasty. So Colossal on YouTube, Colossal Scale Battle is leading at 42%.
Holy crap sticks!
But Throne Room Skirmish is right behind it at like 35%. And it is very similar on Twitch, where Titanic Siege is just a smidge ahead of Throne Room Skirmish, but they got like another 2 to 3 minutes to vote. Another bookkeeping thing I want to take care of. Lorebeards this Sunday going to be on Mr. Law's channel, so the Warhammer channel. We're going to be talking about all of the new lore from Shadows of Change, which is going to include like the actual DLC stuff itself and all of the new update stuff, which there's a lot to talk about, from the new short stories to like things we didn't get to touch on originally, like talking about like the Changeling as a character and all the cool things about that. We're going to be talking about marked beastmen. We're going to be talking about the new creatures for all the rosters. We're going to be talking about Games Workshop's weird comments about Ungals and Gospodars. We're going to be talking about all sorts of really interesting different things. But you've got about another minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe. So vote quick.
I'm super excited to see what's going on. I'm now currently running over ideas for each level, but if it's looking like the gigantic battle's going to win, that's a fascinating outcome.
There is less than a 5% gap between Colossal Battle and Throne Room Skirmish.
Ooh, if you want the Throne Room Skirmish, which will be a far more intimate affair, you need to vote now.
Yeah, team Throne Room Skirmish. If y'all wanna, y'all need to pick it up right here at the end if you want to really get it. the Epic Duel team really put in an effort on YouTube, but on Twitch, Epic Duel did not do well. Twitch was having none of that.
So we'll leave it for about a minute more.
Yep. Yeah. There's a timer counting down on.
You got a timer. Oh, I think for next time we'll need to get a timer on screen because that'll be awesome.
That'd be a good idea. I don't know how we would do that on Streamlabs. I'm sure we could figure that out.
Pretty sure we could figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can make ourselves a nice graphic for the top as well. Epic Warhammer Battles of History.
We're so original here.
We totally are. 100% original. Oh, I'm loving this. How long have we got left?
There's less than 3% now between Colossal Scale and Throne Room Skirmish.
Oh, this is exciting.
Twitch is almost tied as well. Like this is neck and fucking neck. Like Throne Room, y'all are so close to making it a tie. I don't even know what we would do in the event of a tie. I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. Oh, okay. So on Twitch, they're tied now. Throne Room has caught up to Titanic Siege.
Oh, that's brilliant. I would like to say that no, that's not the case. See, before Ed, Twitch is making things exciting. This is brilliant. Twitch is brilliant. Come on, Skirmish Gang.
Game, push. All right, it's almost done. You've only got a couple seconds left. It's wrapping up. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Yeah, Duel got absolutely destroyed, which is interesting. I was kind of thinking Duel was gonna. Oh wow, Throne Room Skirmish has overtaken on. Oh, that's gonna make this really. Whoa, okay, it's over. It's done. It's done.
It's done. What we got?
I actually have to do math on this one.
Maths.
So 49% on Twitch went Throne Room Skirmish.
49.
45% going for Titanic Siege. So
49, 45.
So
okay.
There is a 4% lead for Throne Room Skirmish.
Mm-hmm.
And on Twitch or on YouTube, Throne Room Skirmish got 35%.
35.
But Colossal Scale Battle got 40%. So
40,
it won by 1%.
1%!
1% point. 1% Colossal Battle takes the win, which means we have to do even more work.
I have to think now. Okay, so for our last round, we both get ourselves uninterrupted. So I have to shut up, which is really hard for me. We get ourselves uninterrupted, approximately 4 or 5 minutes worth to describe how we think this battle would unfold from beginning through to end, where ultimately, I presume, our character will stand triumphant. After, I do believe you're going first in this one. So
yes.
After the Loremaster of Sotek goes first, I will then get to do my uninterrupted one, and then we will do a rebuttal. So I'll just move straight into my rebuttal after I've done my one, where I will rubbish the ideas that are coming from this side, and then he will do his rebuttal of my ideas. Once we've done that, we will look at each other, and then we'll just argue it out until we're done. Assuming that you're all happy with that, drum roll, please. I do believe it is time for a fight!
Hold on. Give me a second. Okay. So, and just to remind everyone what has led up to this. So, thanks to Jat's votes, the final decision ended up being that on the Isle of Albion, Settra was on his way to Norska for the War of Sand and Snow, which means this takes place during the Old World timeline. And he managed to set up shop somewhere near or on the Isle of Albion. But Malekith ends up storm-wrecked because of a big nasty storm. His Black Ark becomes beached on the Isle of Albion. And they managed to steal some treasures and take them back to the Black Ark, which ends up leading Settra in his ire after the Black Ark, where he unleashes his legions upon the Isle of Albion and lays siege with his great army against all the forces that are present within the Black Ark itself. That is the scenario that chat has narrowed us down to. All right, so the way I would see this going down.
Wow, this is a toughie.
Yeah, so the way I see this going down is that as the sun begins to peek over the horizon, the mists of Albion just barely begin to part. There is one portion from where Malekith sits just outside his throne room, looking down on the mist-wreathed Isle of Albion, where he thinks what he sees is initially that the sun has come over the horizon and it's starting to pierce through the mist. But he realizes that that can't be it, because it's as if the sun itself has appeared on the Isle of Albion. And as the mists begin to flee away from the burning might of whatever it is that's caused this, he sees Seer he sees the air waving from an intense heat, which shouldn't be possible this far north, shouldn't be possible in the cold, damp, miserable hellscape that is Albion. But there standing is a strange undead creature holding aloft a great two-handed scimitar that burns searing white with the might of the sun itself, burning away the fog of Albion and revealing all around and behind him a colossal army of the dead. And with that, Screaming Skull catapults begin launching barrages of magical artillery into the Black Ark, which, although isn't necessarily doing a lot of damage to the structure itself, horrifies the invaders as Dark Elves find skulls that scream and are burning with eldritch flames landing among them, lighting some people ablaze or biting others, causing some to panic. Initially, there are some groups that come charging down the causeway, hoping that they can silence these war machines. Harpies come flying out of the spires to attack these things, but as they get close, they see that Settra had prepared for such an eventuality. He was ready for the nightmarish flying terrors of Norska, and Carrion start swooping down, taking them to the fight in the sky, along with one of those new fancy bone necrolith dragons that comes swooping down, breathing horrific gas all over the harpies, exterminating them and allowing the artillery to continue uninterrupted. While the Dark Elves are able to make some good advantage with their high ground and being behind the stone walls, firing their repeating crossbows, their Reaper bolt throwers, and all sorts of other nasty machines and artillery, what they find up against the Tomb Kings is there's something unerring, there's something horrid about their archers. They seem so simple, just skeletons with just regular bows and arrows, but the arrows are guided as if by some form of sentience. They find people that they shouldn't be able to, almost as if they're curving around corners that they shouldn't be able to, finding gaps in armor as if guided by some sort of supernatural force. Meanwhile, there are all sorts of other horrors going on in the battlefield. There are strange caskets that are brought out, and as Dark Elf sorceresses are trying to unleash their sorceries, the Lich Priests crack open the casket of souls and let out wailing spirits to go after those Dark Elves who are too arrogant to turn away from something that you would figure with their great speed they should look away from. But no Dark Elf is willing to admit that they're afraid. No Dark Elf is willing to not look at the thing that by looking at it seals your fate. Meanwhile, grand statuary constructs are moving in on the Black Ark, smashing down gates, plowing through ranked up groups of infantry, which the Dark Elf spears, for all of their incredible skill, are useless against these contracts made of all sorts of onyx and stone and reinforced by magical means to be tougher than anything the Dark Elves have seen on Nagaroth or in Ulthuan. Even the hides of dragons do not compare to these horrid constructs and how just supernaturally tough they are. Repeater bolts do nothing. The bolt throwers glance off them, maybe causing a crack. And as the constructs begin to push through, the Dark Elves have to rely more and more upon the only true advantage they have, which is sorcery. They're not able to bring many of their great cavalry or chariots to bear, but fortunately for them, neither is Settra, having to sit back and wait for a lot of his Ushabti and his other statues to clear the way up the ramparts and force
1 minute to go
itself, which then leads to an overall conflict where wizards begin to unleash horrible spells, forcing Settra to finally get engaged, because Settra is the ultimate order answer to sorcerers. At this point, Malekith must get involved, because clearly there's a figure on the battlefield who every spell that's being thrown on him has no effect. Malekith gets on his dragon, comes crashing down to fight against Settra himself, because he figures if he can end this battle, taking out this main threat, the Tomb Kings will be forced to retreat, because the Lich Priests at that point will be perfectly vulnerable without their king to protect them, who's also enhancing the warriors around them, finally resulting in an epic confrontational duel. But Malekith has a problem. None of his spells are working. They're bouncing off the Scarebrooch of Assyrian, and as the two go to trade blows, something terrible happens for Malekith, which is as they're fighting back and forth, his blade destroyer is useless against a blessed artifact of a god, not made by a mere mortal, which destroyer was made by Malekith, a simple elf, whereas the blessed blade of Patra is from a deity the likes of which Malekith has sort of encountered, but suffered in. And as Malekith's armor, which protects him not from things of magical and divine origin, is pierced by the blessed blade of Petra, just like has happened in his fight against Kalidor I. The divine flames of Petra ignite those horrible burns that have haunted Malekith, and whether due to genuine trauma or perhaps divine flame rekindling a similar divine flame, Malekith is horrified to find himself burning from the inside out
over time
and is forced to retreat or dies.
Well, holy crap. All righty. That was quite the battle. All right. Are we sitting comfortably? Round 2. So, let us set the scene. We have ourselves the very young king, Settra, with barely any experience in comparison to Malekith, who has been around since almost the birth of the modern Warhammer world. The child of 2 gods wrapped up into 1 elf, Cain and, as we all know, Azurin. His father, Anarion, sired him to be king, and as we all know, one day he will become king of all elves. He has never, unlike good old Settra, died. And never will, because he is simply better than these things. But we have ourselves quite the battle. We have ourselves the arrayed forces of Khemri all around the shattered spike of rock that is his great black arc. Now, for those of you who don't know black arcs of Nagaroth, these are no simple ships that move from one place to the next. This is a mighty fortress, a part of Ulthuan torn off. And it is filled not just with dragon, but with dragons, with great sea dragons that come roiling out from the depths and can gout not just poisonous yuck and watery fires and all manner of horrors upon the, well, skeletons, the undead. Ugh. We have the sky filled with not just the harpies and the dragons and all of those other creatures that Warhammer is known for not really describing in its armies. The thousands of slaves that come bubbling up, because we're not just dealing with dark elves, we're dealing with Skaven, with humans, with ogres, with orcs, with greenskins of all types, all of whom will be taking to the defense of this city, because they'll be dying first. And as the great swathe of Khemri comes forward, foolishly, I would like to say, at the very top, high above the rest, is the Witch King and his court, who gather and look down at this small attack. For Settra and everything that he has available to him is nothing in comparison to what the Dark Elves can bring to bear. They are the sorcerer's extreme. The magic that created Settra and everything that is relied upon him came from but 3 of their weaker sorcerers. I'm looking for a word for both of them. Magic users, but 3 of them. And they have more sitting in this because all of the elven nobility outrank everything that is down there. But we don't need to worry about that. Malekith doesn't even need to take to the field to win this day. He will, but he doesn't need to. Because his court can more than easily do exactly what the court knows it needs to do. Because Settra does not matter. There's only one thing that matters down there, and that's the Hierophants. Those that are keeping the undead hordes in place. The Dark Elves do not need to drive back everything that's coming against them. The Dark Elves aren't idiots. The Dark Elves have won battle after battle after battle because they know what they're doing. So they take out the Hierophants. They concentrate their fire where it needs to go. And this is a battle of such size that they have more than enough ability to have all of their slaves hold off against this initial onrush. That is the tactical inferiority of this force that does not know how to deal with Dark Elves because it barely ever has. Because anytime they took to the seas, the Dark Elves or the High Elves sunk them. We all know what good old Settra's like on sea. He's terrible. They've never faced. The Dark Elves have all of the advantage here because they understand what's going down completely. They mark out the Hierophants. They take them out with a mixture of magic and dragons. It is easy. This is a one-sided battle. Settra, of course, will survive this, but his army won't. His army will start to crumble, as across the plains they begin to go down. Settra knows he's got very little choice here. He either retreats and continues on with his vendetta to the north, or he does not. The Dark Elves aren't here to kill Settra, but they will if they need to, because it's not a two-sided battle. It's a one. Settra's forces are going to be defeated this day. Of that, there is no doubt, because they do not have the tactical awareness of how to take down the Dark Elves, where the Dark Elves do, and they have millennia of practice at fighting this sort of war. There's a reason that the Black Arcs don't sink very often. It's because they have extraordinarily powerful elves who are used to facing off multiple dragons at once, sitting at the top. And that's what we have here, because the Witch King is not alone. But let's say the Witch King does take to the battlefield.
Almost out of time.
Oh, okay. Let's say he does, because in the end, Settra's going to have to run. If he hunts him down and pushes, I will just add 1 point. That brooch is not going to stop the Destroyer Sword, because the Destroyer Sword was made by someone who wanted to kill elves that include avatars of gods. It's designed to stop gods. It is designed to take him down. So, I now get to move on to the rebuttal, which is exactly where I was going. The dude is going down. And why is he going down? Because that brooch, whilst it is very powerful, is only a 3+ save, which means 2 and 6 of my spells are going through every single last time, which means I'm a level 4 spellcaster with the good old iron. Terry, basic odds alone, my magic on a dragon, I never need to take to the ground. He can sit there burning away in his chariot all day. That is the whole point of this whole battle. They don't have the correct sort of troops to take on the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves don't have the right sort of artillery to take on the undead. We all know that all those spiky little prickly shots that are going to be wailing down are going to kill maybe a few of the skeletons, but they're not going to do much. In the end, it's the magical superiority that's going to take to the table here, and they completely wipe the floor with the good old Nehekaran-like priests that are down there. It is going to be really one-sided, particularly given if we do get to our one-on-one battle. That brooch is not going to do very much. It's going to go down to the Destroyer Sword, as is the rest of his various artifacts. He's on a freaking dragon, Seraphon. That dragon's going to pick up that chariot and go, toss, like I really care. Ping. That dragon is going to eat the chariot et al. For breakfast. Settra doesn't have enough stat to take out the amount of wounds that dragon and Malekith has, because in the end, for all we say, stats don't matter. It's all about stats. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be playing Warhammer. And bluntly, Malekith is worth twice the points of Settra. There's a reason he's worth twice the points. It's because he's not just twice the amount of power. He is much more than this. He's one of the most powerful magic users on the planet, supported with a ridiculous ancient artifact that, as we all know, is so powerful that even someone like Teclis found it tough to take him down. And that sword, it's just going to either ruin Settra's day by taking out his sword, because Malekith will go first in that fight, because he always strikes first. He will be re-rolling all of his misses because he hates him. He hates Settra with a passion you cannot imagine, because he hates everything with a passion you cannot imagine. And every single time he gets those hits in, which he will, the good old Destroyer Sword is flicking out, doing its thing. And if any magic should come on, as we all know, he's got his ridiculous spell shield. Cut a long story short, I don't know if you know an awful lot about statistics, but this is my job. I do statistics for a living. Bluntly, he's dead. There is almost nothing he can do, both on the magical front, the power front, I'm on a big dragon swooping down, blowing flame in your face, or in the just, I'm going to stay at a distance and never engage with you and just fire from afar. There's almost nothing that good old Settra can do to take out Malekith other than relying on his giant army, which, as we've already shown, is but child's play for the Dark Elves to deal with, because they know how to take it out.
So, now comes my rebuttal, because there's a few things that Andy oh so conveniently forgot in his little speech that he just ranted on.
Forgot my bum.
For instance, going on about, the weakness of the Hierophants. Of course, forgetting that Settra is the Hierophant. So long as Settra lives, the Hierophant lives.
Not true. Not true. The Hierophant has to be the highest spellcaster in your army. He's only level 1.
Well, that's why you only wait. I thought he had a special.
No. He has to be your general.
Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. He doesn't need it anyway. Here's the thing, though. Dragons, not a big problem. Just like the great golden drake that came from the World's Edge Mountains, that was a dragon unlike anyone had ever seen, killed with a single shot from a bone giant with a bow. And we're going to have tons of those bone giants. This army was meant to go across the entirety of Norska. You think they weren't ready for fucking dragons? They got chaos dragons and frost worms, all other stuff. A couple of black dragons, whoop-de-fucking-do. The bone giants are going to make mincemeat of those. The second they take off into the sky, they're sitting ducks, especially because no matter how good their magic is, these are arrows guided by gods. And unlike the shit elven gods, the Nehekari gods actually get involved. They do things. Sure, Destroyer was meant to deal with elven god bullshit, but that's because elven gods are losers. They're cowards that came to the mortal world to hide from shit because they can't do their damn jobs. Human gods get shit done. That's why the Scarab Brooch can hold off the likes of Nagash, even when Nagash is at his full power, because you have a god getting personally involved, unlike the elf gods who don't do diddly squat. Then we have things like the Searing Blade Batra. He only needs one swing with that thing to make Seraphon no longer flight worthy. And that thing burns so hot, it cuts through armor as if it's not even there. You don't get Scaly Skin. You don't get the Armor of Midnight. You don't get the Supreme Spell Shield. They're gone, baby. They're out of here. And you have to hope you get that blade before Settra swings back. And even without it, Settra is still a considerable force. That chariot is incredibly quick, and he's going to be surrounded by all of his chariot buddies. He's going to have Nakaf willing to lay down his life to protect Settra and to hold off Malekith for that little bit of time if that's what Settra needs to get in that killing blow. And when we're looking at their armies, the thing about the Dark Elves is they could be all cool if they want. They're going to panic. They're going to run. Because no matter how long elves may live, they're mortal. They feel fear. They don't want to die so that their souls can be munched on for eternity by Slaanesh. They have something to be scared of. But the undead, nah. They know exactly what they're doing. Those slaves will break and run. The Dark Elves will break and run. The Tomb Kings got this, no problem.
Yeah, those Dark Elves aren't going anywhere. They hate everybody, as we all know. Not only that, they hate everybody except for the one thing they truly do fear, Malekith, who is, of course, immune to psychology. He's not going anywhere. He causes fear himself, after all, because he's so fucking terrifying. Malekith is the dog's bollocks, so to speak, when it comes to this particular battle. This is almost a battle designed for someone like him. And you might ask why. It's because he has the artifacts that take care of Settra. He has the knowledge and the skill of thousands of years worth of conflict to completely outwit something as simple as Settra. As we all know, Settra loses. And that is, as we discussed in the Settra video, his biggest issue. He loses again and again. Why does he lose? Because Settra's not really that good. He fights a good fight. Sure, he talks a good talk. Oh God, does he talk a good talk as they go on for hours describing just how awesome he was. But there's a reason he boasts. It's because much of his rule is based upon one thing, total terror. It's not based upon true capability. If it was, he would have been more successful. He has not been. Malekith, unlike Settra, has never died. Ever. Malekith won't run. He is immune to psychology. Malekith knows how to take out this army. And as much as I would like to say that this is, a relatively close one, we went for the big battle. And the big battle very much plays into Malekith's hand. If it was one-on-one, it gets a little bit tighter. But this level, he has too much on his side. And they have not just magical superiority. Their magical superiority is so outstripping their opponents that the poor old undead, which rely upon magic just to keep going, are in extraordinary trouble. And if we want to conclude on one point, which I think kind of sorts it all, in the end, Malekith doesn't need to win this. All Malekith needs to do is get away. Because in the end, the win here is surviving. And Settra is not going to survive this particular battle the second everything's been lost on his side. All he needs to do is play a game of wait till your Hierophants are taken down. And they will be. Which leaves Settra with nothing. Which means Settra has got one of two choices. Choice one, keep pressing on and lose, or choice 2, retreat to get the vengeance he wants, because ultimately that's what this battle is about, what's going to happen in the north. And this is not Settra's battle. He is bound to retreat because this is a far harder battle than he ever imagined it would be. Far harder. And he'll have a choice. Do I get my vengeance against what I need to get my vengeance in the north with? Or do I tackle this and almost certainly lose and have to reincorporate myself back in Khemri? Because that's ultimately what's going to happen here. The court of Nagarond will crush him.
That's what Andy wants you to believe. But there's a couple of key issues with his little story there. The first being that the problem with relying purely on magic is the more you rely on it, the more chance it's going to blow up in your fucking face and kill all of you.
That's why I have Hecate's blessing. I have Hecate's blessing. I get to re-roll all these things. I've got 35 iron.
Quiet in the stands. Quiet in the stands.
No, we're in argument now. We've had our rebuttals.
No. I let you have your moment. I let you have your moment.
You know, I'm kind. We are in argument stage, but away you go, so that I can laugh from the side.
The other thing is that the Dark Elves are backstabbing bastards. They're all going to be just waiting for an opportunity to take out a rival, to murder one another, either to rise in Malekith's esteem or maybe to kill Malekith himself. Because you can't rely on a Dark Elf. There's a reason that they are one of only 2 factions in the entire setting that if you took them as an ally, you had to roll a dice to see how much of a backstabbing shit they were going to be, because their ally would degrade because they were that bad. Even if you were playing Dark Elves and Dark Elves, their alliance would degrade because they're the worst. They're almost as bad as the Skaven. Actually, debatably worse, because at least the Skaven kind of can't help it. And the other thing when you're dealing with the Tomb Kings is that at the end of the day, Malekith thinks he's going to get away, but Malekith's dragon has died under him before, and it's going to happen again. He has a bad habit with losing dragons. He lost his original dragon. He lost his first during the war against the demons. He lost his first black dragon against Teclis. He's on his 3rd. He should really have better insurance on those things. And when a Necrolith Bone Colossus snipes that thing out of the air and he's on the ground,
he's not on his
he's
3rd.
A sitting duck.
Teclis hasn't killed it yet. We're pre-Teclis.
Oh, boo. Boo, okay. Whatever.
Yeah, we're
Malekith is a constant loser. He's trying to take one fucking island and he can never do it. He
Wrong. He does eventually.
No, he sinks it. He destroys it because he can't take it. He is such a big baby that instead of just admitting he can't win, he has to flip the table because he can't handle it. He's too you're missing the point of this battle. The battle has nothing to do with whether Nagash was too weak to take out Settra. As we all know, we can't include that because that takes place in the end times, and we're not using end times. At this point, Nagash would probably eat Settra for breakfast. End times doesn't happen. It's a nonsense. Indeed, the only reason that we think the brooch is more powerful than it actually is because the end times used it as a narrative device. But as we all know, the end times is nonsense. That brooch... No, because the brooch played a key role in that when Nagash returned and he tried to come conquer the dead, he could not deal with Settra. Him and Archon... Archon the Black has been as strong as he's ever been. He had the staff in Nagash. Archon the Black is one of the most powerful undead wizards in the setting. He's a level 5 wizard. He's even stronger than Malekith by tabletop terms. And he still can't deal with Settra. Settra obliterates Archon every time. He has to run away like a little bitch. And that's exactly what Malekith would do.
You really think Malekith would run?
Yes, because that's what Malekith always does.
It is not. After all,
get the hell out of there.
According to you, he never succeeded. He took Ulthuan, almost all of it. And eventually, yes, he was driven back with a variety of other elves, the most powerful elves that the Warhammer world has to offer. Elves are on such a different tier.
Elves are overrated. Overrated. They're so squishy.
Sure.
I'll take an undead bone boy any day.
If that's the case, then how come he's never died? And you have?
Because he's a convenient loser who just happens to get away. Settra fights to the bitter, brutal end.
Settra died.
What is death to a true immortal? If he dies, he just bursts into a swarm of scarabs and comes back lickety-split. Not a big problem at all. Why would you avoid death when you know death is inconsequential?
It is worth saying that Malekith has never died. I'll accept that. you are correct. Malekith has never actually lost in a one-on-one combat. I will accept your point. He is perhaps not as conversant with death as good old Settra. Settra most certainly has been on the other side on more than one occasion. But I will also suggest that he has been on the winning side for not just a few centuries, but thousands of years. It is very easy to go, well, he lost here or there, but as we both know, he won for the majority of his rule. Of course, he was beaten back at points, but we're not talking about Settra, who never really leaves his borders and does anything with it. He's stuck. He's pretty much left there for thousands of years doing naught, because he is, as we both know, pretty unsuccessful as a general. And that is the weak point. Regardless of what you think about who wins on a one-on-one basis, which is pretty much Malekith. But regardless of what you think, who wins on the overall individual army units, ultimately it boils down to who are better generals and who has greater intelligence on the scene. And the Dark Elves don't just outclass the poor old Light Priests et al., who have no idea what they're dealing with at all. They thoroughly outclass them. It is not a meeting of equals here. And if it comes down to just blunt tactics, the Dark Elves will make the necessary sacrifices to ensure that they win. And sacrifices will come. And yes, it will mean that several will die, almost certainly mostly slaves, if they can make anything to do with it. But many will die. But I will counteract one of your arguments in particular. The Dark Elves will not be backstabbing each other, not until victory is certain, because there's one thing you can say about their society, and that is they are survivors. There is a reason that they have managed to rule undisputed in the north, faced off against countless chaos hordes in the north for so long. No matter what pitched against them, they have won. Their empire has never been under any serious threat at all. And the reason for that is because they know how to band together when they have to. And here, in these ridiculous circumstances, with pretty much the entire army of Khemri arrayed against one tiny Black Ark, they would do what they'd have to do. These would be no Skavens. These would be a polished, millennia-old trained fighting machine. You're in trouble here.
So here's the biggest thing about Malekith, right? Here's the actual core thing, is that Malekith has one true weakness, which are gods. Every time Malekith gets his ass kicked, it's because a god gets involved and he gets grand slammed. He tries to walk through the flames so he can become Phoenix King. He gets the shit burned out of him and runs back. He tries to defeat Kalidor the First. He gets stabbed by Phoenix Guard blades, and Ashurin once again kicks his ass. He tries to go up against Teclis at Finnebar Field. Leleith says, "Get down, son," and punts him into the ground. And the thing is, you're dealing with a guy, an entity, who wields the power of an entire pantheon. Not just one god. He's got the sun god in his hand. He's got the god of the dead on his chest, and he rides a chariot blessed by all of them. And this is a powerful pantheon. When the elves and the dwarves were busy just doing their own stupid shit, twiddling their thumbs, wasting time, Settra conquered one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. And the only reason that it did not continue to grow and take over the entirety of the old world is because he died of old age. Because unfortunately, he's not an elf and can't cheese bullshit his way out of avoiding the harsh consequences of life. But he came back even stronger. From all the lore that we've ever had, Settra has only died one single time.
That'll do it.
Back. And it was due to pure stupid luck from a flaming weapon, something Malekith does not have.
Malekith doesn't have flaming weapons?
No,
I'm
he doesn't.
pretty convinced fire is not hard for them to create. I do believe that fire is one of the very basic elements that anyone can create.
Bringing that fire to bear against Settra, it'd have to be a very special flame. It can't just be any casual flame. It's going to need to be something serious.
No, it can be any flame. It can be any flame. He's flammable.
It has to get through his hide. It has to get through the armor of all of the stuff he wears and his chariot. It has to get through all the guys around him. It has to get through his ward save. He's protected against mere mundane flames. Otherwise, he'd die every damn week. But no, No,
he wouldn't, because there's not fire all over the place. This is quite different. This is war. And under war, he would be targeted again and again. See, as I say, no matter what you individually argue, you're missing the core point. And the core point is the army is weak. They have a weak point. The Dark Elves, all they need to do is take out the Hierophants, which, under normal circumstances, may be a challenge, but in these circumstances, kinda aren't. They are not difficult targets.
Hierophants, they may not be necessarily, I'll say they're not as powerful as a Dark Elf sorcerer, but the thing is that they're good at staying beneath notice. They're good at staying alive.
No, they're not.
Yes,
have you not read the rules? The rules are quite clear. I'm going to rules lawyer this one. You must tell your opponent which Hierophant is the one that is responsible for holding the army together, and there's a reason for that, because all the magic users on the other side can identify it.
But this is a place where the tabletop rules fail how the battle would actually happen in the lore, though. You don't need a singular Hierophant. You need someone who's capable of being a Hierophant. If the Hierophant dies, someone else takes up the mantle.
I agree entirely. I don't disagree in that one, particularly because we're dealing with such a large army.
In the lore, it specifies that the reason Settra learned magic is so he would not need the Lich Priest in order to control his armies.
I agree completely. But they are weak. And I will continually say it. This is such a weak point. That if this was vampires, it'd be a completely different set.
Tomb Kings are way scarier than vampires. Vampires have his magic. Tomb Kings are
vampires are rock hard.
I mean, Tomb Kings are
really rock hard.
To vampires. That's why every time a vampire shows up where a Tomb King is, the vampire shits its pants because it knows the Tomb King is going to beat the shit out of it.
The Tomb King, perhaps, but not the vampire. And by that, I mean...
Kings. It's not just going to be Settra. This is his big legion. He's going to have all of his kings and his princes with him. There's going to be tons of them.
I don't disagree, but none of them matter.
Because they all matter.
The Hierophants matter. The Hierophants. That's all that matters.
Settra is standing, though, you have a Hierophant. And the Hierophants are protected. They're guarded by incredible relics.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be anywhere near enough to hold an army. He hasn't got enough power to hold an entire army by himself. That's what the Hierophants are for. As they fall, the army falls. Effectively, what you do is you break it up. As you say, the Warhammer rules are a larger representation of a smaller part. So as each Hierophant falls, all the ones that it woke up begin to collapse. And then the other Hierophants try to pull it together. But as they fall, the whole thing collapses. It's a tower of cards. It's all built on very, very weak struts. And the Dark Elves know it. And that is ultimately where it falls apart.
If this was an open field battle and the Dark Elves had equal numbers, I would agree. But the problem is...
but they don't. That's the point.
They're trapped in their Black Ark. They're grossly outnumbered. They're on the defensive. Yes, they are not going to have the luxury of taking down Lich Priests.
Yeah, but as we said... They are, I mean, if we're doing it like that, they just retreat because why bother fighting?
But
we're not. We're
able to fall back. They're stuck.
Yeah. So they go after the Lich Priest because that's how they win. I mean, you can just say they wouldn't,
the only way
but they would. Get out
is
we have ourselves.
Fly, but they'd be exposed and they get shot down instantly.
No, that's not how it works. They might get shot down, and some would get shot down, but they have multiple dragons and
easily wiped out.
Easily.
With Settra's Legion designed to go up against Norska, taking flight on an obvious monster would be the worst case scenario you could do. Because that is an army that's been brought specifically to deal with the creatures of chaos.
All right. Then I shall retreat down onto the establishment of the army. Because let's make it nice and easy.
Oh, I'm out of water.
I brought my own. We are in the mid. It's my brown water. We are on Albion. So let's call back to basic premises. We're on Albion, where the mists are. There's going to be very few breaks. It's just been a storm. That's our story. We have a storm. That's what brought them in. The mists are high. Yeah, no, there is no shooting. Hardly any shooting at all. You can't see the dragons as they come flying out of the swirling mists. You're swarming up against the base of the great Black Ark, but no, you don't have the skies controlled at all. This is where the Dark Elves are going to not just slightly outnumber their opponents, they're going to completely eradicate them because they know what they're up against. As we said, they know where they need to go. They know what the targets are. For what exactly?
And I've got Necrolith Bone Dragons, which my Lich Priests are mounted on and therefore protected by.
Maybe one, maybe two. I've got myself a bank of them. That's what Black Arcs are for. They've got entire areas with these.
I'm going to use your source, sir. I'm going to
crowd the skies with harpies as well.
Black dragons are incredibly rare. They don't have fleets of them.
I don't
get a unit of black dragons.
Quite literally, the Dark Elf fleet is pulled by dragons. Quite literally pulled by. Yes, exactly. Sea dragons, which
useless in this fight.
Well, yes, I completely agree, but they're so much bigger and they can go on land. Indeed, they did in one of the scenarios. And they go right up. They keep the boats with them.
That can decapitate them with a single swing. That's what
Dragon,
they do.
Necrosphinx.
No.
Dragon, Necrosphinx.
They can kill giants and dragons with
No. Sea dragon, Necrosphinx. Sea dragon, Spitch! I've killed 10 of them! You're tiny!
No.
I have in my Black Ark, I've a good 30 or
it is stuck
40 of them.
The Black Ark. Ain't no way that thing's coming up. And even if it did, the Tomb Kings have been dealing with those things the entirety of their empire, and they deal with them.
They've been dealing with Dark Elf dragons.
Dark Elf specific dragons? No, but the terrifying dragons of the old world?
No. You're completely mixing up the sea dragons with dragons.
All sorts of nonsensical, brilliant little things coming out from the left field to support your idea. There's no basis for these. There's no tabletop profile for these. There's no way to actually utilize these on the battlefield.
Did you ever play Manowar?
Oh man! Okay, well then I'm gonna pull
in Manowar. We've got ourselves a Black Ark,
all right,
and from the Black Ark, you take out your Dark Elf ships because they're all inside the Black Ark, and they come out from their dragons.
I'm just gonna summon my Tomb King ships from Dreadfleet. Then
if you wish to, you're pretty rubbish.
No, they shoot fucking laser beams. They're incredible.
Yeah, not in comparison to what the Dark Elves have. And in terms of points, they're almost twice the points of everything else because they're so much harder. The Black Ark of Nagaroth is so hard that the game was kind of unbalanced. It was ridiculous. But each one of these sea dragons is so big, it makes the other dragons look like babies. Actual babies. And pretty much everything in the entirety of the opposing force looks tiny. Now, again, I'm not saying
and yet, despite that, the High Elves are easily the dominant force in the sea and sink blackbirds.
Yeah, they do because they
show how lame those sea dragons are. That they're losing.
No, it's dragon ships. It's elves. There's a reason. It's because it's elves.
That's the thing. It's that elves using a lot of very colorful words and a lot of really inventive ideas to plant the idea that Malekith will stand a chance. But at the end of the day, he's going to fail.
No, he's not. And there's a reason he's not. Because I think we need to move towards a conclusion.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly. we need to move towards a conclusion. So let's give some sort of conclusion here. Our battle, at least from my perspective, is an enormous swathe of undead. This enormous swathe of undead is in the misty islands of Albion down in the south. And they have decided, for reasons uncertain, because I don't think either of us have really specified it, to attack the Dark Elves. because reasons, all right? Because that's how it's going to be. And they will come through the mists in an attempt to do their attack. The Dark Elves, in turn, realize that they are going to lose. I completely concede this. If you take a look at the entire makeup of the battle that's been chosen, the Dark Elves aren't just on the losing side in terms of numbers, they're also in a very defensive position that's going to be very difficult for them to move from, which means that they have to use, which is arguably their strongest advantage. And that's not just magic, it's their minds. They've been doing this for thousands of years. To cut a long story short, they have more than enough ability to not just scry their way to a good end, but they've got sorcerers, dragons, all manner of monsters, many of which make the undead monstrosities that are coming towards them look piddly. Now, they've got a choice. They can either deploy them and pull them out from the Black Ark and have them work their way out to cause whatever distractions are necessary, or just wait. They're not going to do that. They're Dark Elves. They're going to assault. They hate anything that dares stand against them, as we know. And in their hatred, they're going nowhere. None of this fear and terror is going to cause them any issue at all. They hate their enemy with a burning passion. That eternal hatred of the Witch King himself will burn through everything that they do. They have a very clear process towards victory. They will take everything they can to not put Settra in a position where he loses, to put Settra in a position where he has to make a decision. Does he go for our story reason for him being here towards the north, or does he continue with this pointless fight? And the answer is this fight for him is pointless. He will retreat because the enormous number of casualties that he will face on the living members of his army, those undead priests aren't undead. When he loses them, he's in trouble, and he's far, far from home. He has no way to get back. he will be in a lot of trouble, with it beyond dying and resurrecting somewhere. He's in trouble. He is going to retreat. There is no reason for him to fight this day. He does not serve. He carries on to his vengeance, and that is not the Dark Elves. They will win this day because the undead have no reason to continue fighting, and the casualties that will be inflicted upon their very mortal members will be horrendous because they are absolutely outclassed when it comes to magic, and they need their magic to keep their army going. So it is just sensible for Settra to say, you know what? It's time to retreat. Now, I will concede one last point. Perhaps Settra doesn't. And he decides that for whatever reason, he's going to charge forward. He's going to have to keep on coming. And if that's the case, if we are just going to drop it down to one-on-one, as I say, it's not a fair matchup. And that's kind of my concern with this one, because Malekith is not just more powerful when it comes to close combat, which he kind of is. He's not more powerful in terms of magic, which he's not just slightly more powerful. He is massively so. He's also equipped with artifacts that, regardless of whatever stories we can tell around it, are designed to take someone like him down. And if we just go to the cold, hard stats of it all, it's not in his favor on almost any front. So, yeah, that's my conclusion.
My conclusion will be that that's a load of horseshit, because here's the thing
that's
really important, is that when it comes to Settra versus Malekith, don't believe any of that. Settra has a lot of wounds. And the thing about Settra is that his overall stat line when it comes to surviving hits is so much better than Malekith. Malekith can, like, maybe if he gets lucky, pop a magic item. Hey, that's more than Malekith has.
Malekith's on a dragon!
But they don't have a combined profile. All he has to do is kill Malekith and the battle's over. If the Witch King dies, the Dark Elves are fucked. That would be completely mind-rending for them, for the immortal Witch King to die. And the thing about Settra, he ignores armor, he hits like a truck, and he's substantially faster than the dragon. He's going to have no problem killing a weak toughness 3 baby bullshit elf who won't even get his armor save. At the end of the day, whatever, it's still garbage. And the other thing is that at the end of the day, the Tomb Kings in the battle that y'all chat voted for are going to have incredible numbers. They don't need to win the battle on the day. They could just send little legion after legion that never get tired, never need to sleep, never need to eat, never eat to rest, to just attrition the elves down. Elves, for all as powerful as they are, they will get tired. They can't use magic forever. Magic is exhausting. It is not a limitless supply.
Not for them.
It's also dangerous. There's a very good chance it could blow up in their face. There's a very good chance that the winds of magic might betray them and start to gutter out. And while the Lich Priests are not as powerful, they're by no means useless. They are more than capable of still getting off plenty of spells and unleashing plenty of rites of their gods, not to mention their magical artifacts, and unleashing absolute devastation. And while the Dark Elves hate everything, hatred means nothing in the face of fear. It doesn't do anything to fear. It doesn't help you against terror. It doesn't help you when you're facing the literal concept of mortality, which for elves is much fucking scarier for them than it is for most, because they know where they go when they die.
If that was the case, they'd have a lower leadership. They don't have a lower leadership.
The thing is that elves always fail their bitch-ass leadership tests because they're only leadership like 8. Like, sure, the character, but like compared to a dwarf, elf leadership is garbage. Maybe compared to a normal man, it's good. But leadership 8 is terrible. They're not cold-blooded like lizardmen who are rolling way better. Nah, they're simple elves. They played them plenty of times. They fail fear checks all the time. It's a clap. The other thing that comes down to at the end of the day is that the Tomb Kings just have 2 superior numbers. They're going to be able to wear them down with attrition, and the constructs are incredibly powerful. They're wielding enchantments that are wreathed in death, and nobody, not even the fucking Dark Elves,
knows you're just restating your argument again.
Bullshit! You did the exact same fucking thing. You shut your whore mouth, Andy Law. But at the end of the day, the Dark Elves are just not going to have enough, and they're going to get worn down. And Settra's an arrogant twat. He's not going to be able to resist conquering something in front of him.
No, that's not what this one. This is the conclusion. Yeah, look at that face. Look at that face.
I want a playback on how long Andy's conclusion was. You don't get to say shit on someone being long-winded. Are you kidding me? All right. Anyway.
That was brilliant.
Okay,
so That was awesome. That was awesome. Right, first things first, I'd like to say enormous thanks to Loremaster of Sotek. That was truly ridiculous.
No, we don't. We don't hate each other. This is genuinely, if you've ever played a tabletop game, this is what it feels like, and it's the best part.
Oh, this is brilliant. So we've had ourselves an absolutely ridiculous argument about a truly ridiculous battle that could have happened. Now, the question you have for yourself out there is, having listened to our quite crazy justifications for why we think we should win, now, upon reflection, don't choose your favorite. That's the easy thing to do. That's not the purpose of this. Don't choose the one who should win according to your first instinctual thoughts. Don't choose the one you don't hate, because that's also super easy to do. Instead, think about this ridiculous battle we've spun. Think about this great horde of undead that has gathered in Albion. Think about this crashed Black Ark. Think about the battle that unfolds, and how do you think it's all going to go down? Now, the question is, who wins? Settra or Malekith? And winning here is by your definition. Drop into the comments as we go and pop up the poll for this. It's about to go up over on my YouTube channel.
Please tell us why.
Tell us why you think they're going to win. Now, winning for you could be they get into a fight and one beats the other. Winning for you could be one retreats and the other one wins the day. Winning for you could be the entire army flees, leaving the general sitting there going, oh no! Whatever it is for you, do drop it down as a comment. Do mark it down. I'm about to go over to YouTube now. I've got it right here.
To be clear, this is not a poll that will take place during the stream. This is a post-stream poll.
Absolutely.
And we will talk about what y'all decided at the start of the next who would win, and we'll have a laugh over all the comments and stuff.
So what's going to happen is we're going to do another one of these because this is too much fun.
I had a ton of fun with this.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Yeah, it's too much fun. There's no way we're not doing this again.
I got to call Andy Law a whore. That was for me.
You lying whore! Ah, that was brilliant. So we're about to pop it up. I'm about to press. Are you all ready? This poll will be going until we do our next one of these. Now, we don't know when that'll be because this was an experimental stream. We wanted to give it a go. We haven't set a date for the next one yet, but we do fully intend to do one. So when we do it, that is when the poll closes, and it won't be until then. So if you happen to be watching this 5 days later, the poll is still open over on my YouTube channel. Go click, and do please write a quick answer as to why you think your choice is going to win. Are you all ready? I'm about to press post.
Oh, I should have brought up that should have been my conclusion, was the prophecy of demise. It was foretold that a male wizard would kill him, and technically, I may be level 1, but I'm still a wizard.
Yeah, I was actually going to use that if I was on the other side, because I thought that'd be a super fun one.
That's funny.
Right, here we go. Post! And it's up about now. There we go. Malekith the Witch King, Settra the Imperishable.
That is on the Lawhammer community tab. Here, let me actually grab a link.
I'll get a link to the actual one because I won't make it. I'll get it directly.
Because if you go to the creator page, okay, great.
There's the link right there.
Yep,
that's me popped it up.
So go vote and make sure to leave a comment about why you said what you said. And it could be as elaborate or as simple as you want. Like you could just say,
absolutely,
for this one reason, here's a sentence, or you can give us a whole play-by-play of how you think it would go. I'm gonna have a ton of fun reading these.
Yeah, me too. I'm dropping up the community link just in case you come up later because you might not be able to click through easily. It's just go over to the Lawhammer channel, find the community tab, and even if there's been a post or two afterwards, the poll will be down there in the community section. So go down there, get voting, and see how it goes. God damn it, Settra's already ahead. What?
Here's the thing I will say. Is that the funniest thing I think for me and Andy is that we could have easily switched sides.
Oh yeah, that'd be super
it would have been just as vitriolic. Like I would have gone to bat for Malekith.
Damn straight. And I love Settra. He's going to be my next army. So yeah, I'm super keen to see where this one all lands. It's fluctuating. So I would just like to say thanks. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
So God King Tater says does not. I mean, you could just choose not to vote and leave a comment. It would be really funny.
Entirely up to yourself what you write. There is no winners or losers here. We will not be detailing it out properly till our next stream where we say who will win. And at the start of that stream, we'll have a little quick recap as to how it all ended according to your vote. And don't think that the vote of this minute will be in any way a reflection of what it'll be in the next hour or the next day, because these things tend to fluctuate, particularly as the video goes and sits there for a while and people come along to it later. So please do put your vote in and do share it with others so that they can decide who they think should win as well.
I thought you'd like that comment.
That made me laugh.
Bollocks.
He's the dog's bollocks. Oh, what a stream. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Let me just make sure we didn't miss any super chat stuff at the end. It would be amazing to have Lindsay on.
Oh, she would have. If Lindsay was here, she'd have been a Malekith stan.
Yeah. Just do teams. Have it be a 2v2.
Yeah.
Malacanarian. That's a new way to say that. Wins Druki for life.
Yeah, I think this vote's gonna be pretty close in the end.
Which hopefully that should be the case. Like, no matter how absurd these get, the hope is that people will go, I actually have to think about it. If it's very obvious, then one of us didn't do our job well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was probably me.
No, I think we both pitched a pretty good argument there. We ended up with the thing that I've enjoyed most about this one actually is I did not expect it to be an Albion, nor did I expect it to be an enormous freaking army. I really love this. That's my own fault for suggesting they go north to the Orska. Oh man, I should have said that.
I was not expecting the beach siege because that like fucked up and Albion. Actually, both of those fucked up a lot of things in my head.
Yeah,
like man, that would mess a lot of things up. Because like I didn't get to use like if for the Tomb King argument, I can't use Buried from Beneath because they're on a fucking Black Arc. I can't have Tomb Scorpions coming up in the back lines.
And just so we all know, as we come to the end of the stream, the vote is currently 50-50. And that for me
as God intended.
It's just marvelous. Thank you all so much for staying with us throughout that enormous amount of ranting. I think we had, between the pair of us, a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hobby Squire, would you think Malekith could precede the Brooch with his Iron Circlet and have a solution to Settra's match community / resistance? So, actually, what's interesting, just talking like a little shop here at the end, the Scarab Brooch is really weird from a storytelling perspective because, Settra doesn't get a lot of... It's something we talked about in the Settra stream, is he doesn't get a lot of screen time for how old he is. And the only time he does get screen time is like he fights Archon the Black and Nagash, who are very similar. You know, Archon is accurately called little mini Nagash. You know, he's mini me for Nagash. Which, like, yeah, sure, the Scarab Brooch is incredibly good against them, but it's difficult to say whether that would apply in all places. The Scarab Brooch, it's powerful. I think they made it even more magic resistant in the old world. I think it got a boost actually, which is bonkers. But weirdly, like the Scarab Brooch isn't in Total War, which drives me crazy. I've been bugging them about that forever.
Yeah, it's a funny one. There's a host of artifacts in the Warhammer game that are significantly weaker or bizarrely stronger than the lore would suggest. And the Scarab Brooch is fascinating because the rules pitch it one way, but whenever it's written about, it's generally written a slightly different way. Same with things like, in fact, the Iron Circlet. The Iron Circlet is given a background that's quite frankly ridiculous. But when you actually look at what it does in the battle through the various editions, it's never quite matched the same level.
Like, oh, you get an extra die. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, indeed. Or, he's got +1 magic level as it has been in the past. It's an interesting artifact, and you tend to find that there's a certain level of lore doesn't match the background. In the end, though, whenever we were pitching these battles, the only thing that ultimately really matters is what's its stats on one side or what's the story on the other. And that's where loosely we were taking slightly different arguments at different points because it's fun. Honestly, so that we could take different sides.
I will say, I kind of hope it happened. Like it would be so funny, even though part of it would be like it'd probably be kind of a waste of time. It would be really funny if we ever ended up with a matchup that's clearly skewed. Like it's just not a good matchup, but we still have to try and argue it as if it is a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to the potential of a matchup in the future where we do have people who are quite clearly not well pitched against each other, because it will be the job of us to try and create a situation where the weaker party potentially has advantage. Because one of the great joys of Warhammer is that the unlikely happens. If we played 100 games of Warhammer, sure, and not because I'm on the Malekith side, but Malekith would win most. because the Warhammer rules alone, he's on a freaking dragon. And that alone is ridiculous. But that doesn't mean that he'd win every time. And he wouldn't win every time because sometimes the dice wouldn't be with you or things aren't quite there. And sure, Malekith always hits first and he realizes misses and everything's on his side.
Wizards are significantly not impressive in the tabletop iteration.
They're pretty good.
But like, you know, a level 4 Lich Priest and a level 4 Dark Elf are kind of like, all right, they're
I see what you're saying. Yeah, they're essentially the same. Although,
yeah,
it's
like, the Dark Elf gets a +1. Great.
+1. So yeah, I think this one's a fun one. I'm also quite looking forward to, and again, if you do throw comments over in our Discords about exactly what you think would make for some fun matchups, I do think it'd be quite fun for us to do things that are not statted as well, because now we're talking just pure crazy. Because often the things that aren't statted in Warhammer are the things that are given the craziest stories. Your Sigmars of the world, for example. You know, you've got nothing more than, you know, he took on a Shoggoth the size of a mountain. Not bad when he was mortal. And I think that would make a particularly
that is
weird matchup.
Funniest juxtapositions about Sigmar. He's just a man who also is soloing some of the craziest shit. Let's see, next stream, Eltharion versus Lewin. We'll have an eye out for matchups. I will say we will give advantages to people that try and utilize characters that we've done lorebeards on, because then gives like, you can go watch these lorebeards to get more information about the characters. Because you'll notice, like, we didn't really do, like, the intros are very brief. Like, we're not going to spend a lot of time, like, describing what the character, who they are, what all their feats are, what all their items do. We just don't have time. So, like, you know, it's better if there are characters that have been well covered, because then you can go watch those and be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
So that being the case, do take a check back in our streams, whether on Sotek's channels here or over on the Lawhammer channels. Take a look over at the Lorebeard streams. And if you think there's a really obvious matchup there that we may not have considered, do drop them in our comments.
Forget about Twitch. They're not YouTube. Next battle, Valkia the Bloody versus Neferata. That would be kind of a fun one. Let me get caught up on the Twitch things that I think we missed. Oh God. Oh, how far back does this go? Oh, we missed a lot of Twitch.
Sorry, Twitch. It's just because they don't get highlighted very easily on our screens.
Okay, I'm caught up. So it's... Oh, nope. Nope. Wow, we missed a lot of Twitch. Nope.
Oh, dear.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so an hour ago, we had Hammond say it's a free-for-all where the Ever-Chariot Sotek comes with the Steel Chariot. Yep. And then Hellfear the Mad said, wow, I guess for his recommended scenario is, this is super funny, actually. I'm sad I missed this at the time. There's a bone grinder giant sleeping next to the circle, so they have to fight without waking him. That would be, just really quiet, like... Biofoot, thank you for the bits. And then a great kraken with a massive stone city upon its back rose from the depths. I already said no fishman. Hellfear Mad, to give him more forces, Malekith could have the sea dragons released from pulling the black card. Yep, Andy brought that up. Biofoot, yes, Andy, release the fishman. No fishman. Mr. Hammond says, Rupesh the Seventh comes out to the protection of Settra and bellies out in a mighty roar. It's just another algae scheme. Everyone's favorite Tomb King dwarf from the Black Library novels, which is funny. He's literally just Moses. Hellfear the Mad, Slave Rebellion, when the Dark Elves are occupied, they make a bid for freedom. Inquisitor Hammond, Andy whips out Ben Shapiro to say, facts don't care about your feelings, Sotek.
Harsh, and no, I'd never whip him out.
Yeah, he doesn't like to whip out. That's why everything's always dry, according to him. Inquisitor Hammond, Cowboy. So Cowboy and Mimir end this nonsense and take this to Total Warhammer. I would feel very good about my prospects at fighting Andy in Total War to determine who wins. I would
like to say that would be a shit way to conclude that. I would not do well.
Let me put my thousands of hours of experience up against Andy's like double digits.
Accurate.
Biofoot and wow, you did a lot of Fishman bits. Twitch.
He was desperate for the Fishmen to come in.
They were desperate for the Fishmen. All right, and I think the only super chats we haven't done so far is Eltharion the Grim Lorebeards. Eltharion would be very fun.
Yeah, very fun, particularly because it's a character that has flipped through more than one version.
Yeah, it would actually be way more interesting than y'all think it would be.
Yeah, Eltharion's a great character.
He is kind of unique in that. He's changed a lot. Like I can only think of like maybe 1 or 2 characters that have changed as much as Eltharion has, and none is extreme. Like none is extreme. And then CB featured on Lorebeards. And
I bow to Andy Hall.
I think you can take him. Just keep asking him questions, and he'll leak something about Total War, and he'll get in trouble.
Creative Assembly come along with a hook and pull him off screen. I win purely because of Creative Assembly. Woo! Fun.
Black Ark Lorebeards win. Hey, y'all.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, eh?
You had your chance, and granted, Black Arks did perform very.
They did perform well.
I was pleased how well Gnomes performed as well. That surprised me.
Yeah, me too. Admittedly, I love Gnomes, but yeah, I was. Oh no, Settra's ahead at the moment. Seriously, get your votes out.
well, we'll see how how everything pans out. And then I've sent the Eltharion the Grim Lorebeards message 4+ times. Hey, you know what, Gary? Tell you what, I'll see if we can wiggle him onto the next vote. How about that? I promise, because that would actually be fun.
That seems fair. Yeah, because he'd be a super fun one. It's a good one, Gary.
Well, he'll be on the next vote. I can't promise that'll win, but he'll be on the next vote.
His time will come.
Where are you supposed to vote? On Andy Law's YouTube community page. I already lost the link.
I can pull it up again if we. Do you want the direct link?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Control C. Let me just Control V that one in. Oh, Hawk's already got it.
There you go. All right, so we are over 2 hours. I think that's a good time to call it.
Yep, me too.
This was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed
this. I enjoyed this immensely. Thanks, everyone. You have made this an awful lot more fun than I expected it was going to be. Without your involvement making the choices for where this battle would land, we wouldn't have had anywhere near the conclusion that we did. And I think that it has not just made it a better outcome, it's made it a more interesting one in terms of the story that we've built and the balance of it all, in that we've purposely landed on a story where we've got ourselves a deep imbalance that needs to be addressed by the narratives that we've gently gone through, and we as we called each other whores. So yeah, that was super fun.
It's the only way to argue lore, right? Like if you're not throwing insults, then are you really trying? I thought. By the way, I will post this image someone sent me just on Twitter during the stream that I think everyone would enjoy, and I will send it to you over Discord, Andy, because it made me laugh.
Just go drop the last couple of super chats. Premier episode when again we'll pop that one up.
One day
versus the Emperor's Champion, that'd be fun. Yeah, that one will come at some point. The Fimmer are a somewhat problematic species when you dive back into its past, so there's always a little bit of.
Yeah, that would be a very unique type of stream where there would probably have to be like some, like that would be one of the only streams I think we would do where there would probably have to kind of be a content warning before the stream, which means that it would have to be for a very. I'm not against doing it, but there would need to be some careful. There are some precautions we would need to take around the subject.
Absolutely, and whilst it's a subject that I think we could delve into with some depth, I spoke to the species creator, and it's fair to say that there was an awful lot of regret about certain aspects of how it was portrayed. I think it would nevertheless be a very good subject to dive into because this is a species that's still used today, and those, shall we say, unfortunate beginnings are still there. And many people think that the unfortunate beginnings make for a better story. And addressing that, I think, is well worth spending time on because it's not.
It's one of those things where it's like there are going to be some uncomfortable topics, but I think it's kind of important to address those types of topics. Because like a lot of people that enjoy Warhammer end up doing storytelling themselves, and it's important to kind of know.
Particularly if they go back to the original tales and go, what can I take? And then sometimes they get a bit of a shock. So it's definitely worth going.
And especially with the particular audience we have, it helps that, we probably have a lot of people who don't think about it from certain perspectives and go, well, why would this matter? It's not real. There's one day. I'm just going to say that one day.
And Gary pops up with please, y'all, I'm diabetic. Vote for the Warden. I also am diabetic. And I would like to say, vote for Malekith. I have my diabetic pills sitting right here.
Is he trying to
for
hit
Malekith.
us, like, is he trying to hit us with a pity vote? What is,
Yes.
what is this tactic here?
I think any route to winning when you get called a whore is worthwhile taking.
What a dark elf mentality.
Superb.
All right. Yeah.
That was fun.
I think we're gonna go now.
We
really
are.
Appreciate you all showing up. I'm really pleased with the viewership numbers through the whole show. Like, damn, especially considering how weird the time is. It will probably not be at this time if we do this again. It'll probably be at a slightly better time for global audiences. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's hard to say, but
get out of it. Does so. Don't you say my diabetes is weak?
Do diabetes people have civil wars? What is this?
Apparently so.
I can go here. All right,
we're
gonna get out of here before more diabetes people start bullying each other.
I'll see you all. That was super fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.